South Korea's top delinquent schools dominated headlines, each feared, each ruled by chaos. Gun and Todang burned with violence, their students legends of rebellion and street infamy. But Gangsan High stood above them all worse, wilder, a place no teacher dared enter. A biker gang born in Gangsan roamed nationwide, feared even by rival delinquents. Their dominance was unmatched. Smoking, fighting, rebellion, disorder ran deep through Gangsan's blood-soaked halls. Gangsan's violence grew each year. More students rebelled, more chaos spread through its halls. It earned the name Den of Evil, no rules, no limits, no hope. Then, unexpectedly, change began with a single bloodied shoe no one recognized. Gusera, a new student, walked through ruins. Her presence silenced the school's wildest beasts. That first-year girl, alone and fearless, brought Gangsan High to its knees. A Dosong student smirked, mocking the newcomer. His gang watched with growing excitement and tension. Gangsan students arrived, one taunted, reminding Dosong how a girl humiliated their entire school. Baek Junsu stepped forward, calm but firm. Dosong's boldness clearly crossed the line today. He laughed coldly, mocking their confidence. Not long ago, they avoided eye contact in fear. Baek Junsu asked bluntly if they were high. Dosong had clearly crossed another dangerous line. The Dosong gang laughed hard, mocking Gangsan for getting beaten by a single girl. They joked louder, calling them Gangsan Girl High and ridiculing their loss with sneering faces. Baek Junsu exploded in anger, fists clenched, daring them to fight instead of talk. Suddenly, a girl yawned behind them, completely unfazed by the chaos around her. She stepped forward calmly, silencing the crowd. Her presence alone turned tension into fear. One Dosong thug mocked her. Gusera calmly asked why they talked so much trash. His confidence cracked when he recognized her face. The tiger behind her eyes said everything. Gusera stepped forward, fearless. Her presence alone asked the question none dared answer. Are you scared? Baek Junsu hesitated, unsure what to say. Gusera had taken control without even trying. Another thug yelled at her. Gusera turned calmly, unbothered by his threat or tone. One thug rushed at Gusera, shouting threats, his eyes wide with blind rage. In a flash, Gusera flipped him over brutal impact. Blood sprayed across the concrete. She stood calm as others gasped. Ask for it, and you shall receive, she said. The gang screamed insults. Gusera didn't flinch, even as another charged at her from behind. He swung hard, fists full of anger, but Gusera was ready to strike again. She grabbed his head with a grin, ignoring every insult he spat in frustration. With sudden strength, she smashed his face into the floor, silencing the room with shock. The impact echoed loud, her stance fierce. She demanded respect, not mockery, from anyone watching. Another man froze, eyes wide. Was she human? Her power shattered everything he thought he knew. Cracking her knuckles, she stared them down. Don't wait your turn! Come all at once! He crashed into the wall, groaning. None of them expected her to fight like this. The blonde man watched calmly, disappointed. He knew her strength would ruin their entire plan. If she's here, he muttered, our ambush was pointless. We've already lost everything today. Another thug flew backward, face twisted in pain. The others hesitated, clearly starting to panic. She spun midair, striking hard. One man dropped instantly, the rest frozen in growing fear. His hand bled deeply. She didn't just fight hard, she fought to break them down. He screamed in rage and pain, realizing she wasn't like anyone they had fought before. Gangsan High, feared by many, held power across cities until one girl changed everything alone. One by one, she dismantled them. Her glare made even their strongest hesitate to move. That girl's name echoed in silence, bodies fallen behind her path. Her name was Gusera. Gusera brushing blood from her cheek. They hyped themselves up for nothing. Cheers erupted around her. The gang celebrated, shouting victory over their longtime rival, Doosan High. You're incredible, Gusera! They shouted, surrounding her with praise and energy still high from battle. Meanwhile, two girls watched the chaos unfold. They knew they'd missed their chance to join. The blonde man smirked. Should we ride out next, or wait for their next mistake? Gusera glared, voice firm, hands off. The message was loud, and nobody dared object. The guy backed off quickly, laughing nervously. She exhaled sharply, already tired of his nonsense. Enough talking, she said. Start the bikes. We've got somewhere to be right now. Engines roared on the road. They were heading straight toward the next school without hesitation. In a nearby car, a girl asked, Huh? What's wrong, Oppa? He stared ahead, tense. The man squinted through the windshield. Who are those people on bikes? He asked, puzzled. Engines screamed down the highway. They rode fast, taking over lanes with intimidating coordination and power. A biker gang? He muttered, eyes widening. The group moved like a squad with purpose. Two riders grinned wildly, enjoying the wind. What a view, one laughed. Look at her! Gusera sped ahead. You think I couldn't kill? She said, tearing down the road. Do you even see her as a woman? She beat 5 guys like nothing. She's strong, sure, but she's also hot. Are you crazy? She nearly killed someone? Gusera turned around mid-ride. "Wake up, you morons, or crash and die together." "Love?" she scoffed to herself. "Who would fall for a monster like me anyway?" 6 years earlier, she reached for the doorknob, unaware how much her life would change. "Let's get married!" young Gusera shouted, face red, emotions too big for her small frame. Gusera was 10. That day's memory stayed sharp, even after 6 long years passed. Lee Seojun gently patted her head. "Is this a confession from little Gusera already? Back then, my family owned a boarding house. It was always noisy, always full. And he, my first love, an older university student, lived quietly in a room upstairs. Why did I fall for him? What made my heart race every time we met? Because he was handsome. That's it. Just ridiculously good-looking, especially when eating dinner quietly. Even now, I remember offering him fruit, feeling nervous over something so simple and normal. He smiled at me warmly. Thanks, Gusera. My heart almost burst right there. I stood frozen, clutching the plate. God, he was so fucking handsome it hurt. On the rooftop under moonlight, we sat quietly, watching the city lights flicker below. The view's always nice here, he said. Even his voice sounded cool to me. I lay on my stomach, daydreaming about him, heart fluttering without reason. He draped a jacket over me. You'll catch a cold, he said, smiling gently. At first, I liked his face, but later, I fell for his kindness too. It's damn warm, I said. He smiled. Don't swear, Gusera. That moment stayed with me. I hoped those peaceful days would never end. I wanted to stay like that forever. Seojun Appa! I shouted, running toward home after school, excited to see him again. Dad stopped me. Do you know what happened today? His tone was serious, unexpected. He handed me an envelope. Seojun left this for you. I whispered, a letter? Seojun went to the army. Those words hit harder than anything I'd ever heard before. Our goodbye didn't happen. No notice, no moment, just emptiness left behind that open door. The army? I asked, confused. Nothing made sense. Why would he leave like that? Dad explained. He enlisted suddenly. He's sorry he couldn't say goodbye in person. And just like that, my first love disappeared from my world without a trace. My first love vanished, stolen by duty. Now I ride forward with nothing holding me back. Gangsan High, the place where chaos ruled. I had a new reason to be there. Inside, students screamed as an arm wrestling match escalated into madness no one could stop. Push it over! Someone yelled. Clench your ass! Panic grew louder than any strategy. The loser's gonna get neutered! A voice shouted. One guy screamed, realizing defeat was close. Die! One screamed, slamming the other into a desk. The room erupted into wild chaos. The smaller guy countered fast, landing a clean hit. Ha! You sloppy punk! He laughed. You punch me, huh? Another jumped in. Get him! It's a fight! The crowd yelled. Fists flew. Aim for his nose! Chaos took over while desks crashed and students shouted. Watching calmly, a girl sighed. Are they people or monkeys? That's offensive. 2 monkeys. Use more power. Kill him! Students shouted while chaos continued without a single pause. Gusera entered the room, sighing. So damn noisy, she muttered, clearly unimpressed. She sat down slowly, glaring. I'm going to sleep. Make noise, and you're dead. Everyone froze. Yes, madam, one stuttered, as silence quickly settled over the entire classroom. She laid her head down. Wake me up for lunch. Yes, madam, they replied instantly. The school bell rang loudly. Another ordinary day at Gangsan High had just begun again. Sit down, everyone, the teacher said calmly. We have a new teacher at our school. Whispers spread fast. He's crazy handsome, girls murmured while trying not to stare too hard. I'll be doing my internship here starting today. Nice to meet you all, he said. Meanwhile, Gusera, still asleep, mumbled loudly mid-dream. My name is... Everyone turned her way. Please take care of me this month, the new teacher said with a polite bow. One student scoffed quietly. He looks like a damn parasite. This is just ridiculous, the senior teacher said. Call the students in. I've got other things to handle. The intern opened his folder. Let's see. I'll take attendance to learn your names. Kang Daehyung? Yes. Kang Jizu? Yes, she replied shyly, her eyes avoiding his face completely. The teacher scanned the roster. Everyone's name sounds cool, he said, flipping to the next. Next is Gusera. Her name echoed through the quiet classroom like a sudden shift. Gusera sat quietly, still half asleep. No reaction, no answer, just stillness from her desk. Gusera? A classmate asked. Do we even have someone named Gusera here? She rubbed her head slowly. Ha! Who keeps calling my name so damn early? I was right, he whispered to himself, staring at her name written in the book. Gusera! He called out clearly. The classroom paused, the sunlight making the moment stand still. Gusera blinked slowly. Huh? She mumbled, rubbing her eyes in slight confusion. Her eyes widened. That voice, why did it sound so familiar? Her heart suddenly raced. A memory surfaced. Oppa, she'd said once. He smiled back gently. Yes, it was him. Why do you always read? I asked. Don't books get boring after a while? He smiled, flipping a page. Never. Books don't get old to me. Why? I pressed again. His answer was simple. Because I want to become a teacher. and now he stood there, smiling. It's been a long time, Gusera. My heart stopped. Seojun Oppa! I shouted. He was really back, and now he was our teacher. He went to the military. So why is he suddenly standing here in my classroom? I'm surprised too, he said, smiling gently. Sorry, this must be a shock for you. He leaned in. Have you been well? I froze, barely able to answer. Shall we talk later, after class, he asked. I nodded without thinking. Oh, okay. As he walked away, I stared. This little shit! My heart was racing again. How dare you talk to her? The thug shouted, stepping up with clenched fists. Without warning, he grabbed Seojun and swung hard, fury written all over his face. You fucking parasite! He roared as Seojun staggered back from the unexpected attack. Fists flew. There's no respect for teachers here, someone yelled. It's just survival. It's a fight, students shouted. A showdown with the trainee. The classroom turned into chaos instantly. This is Gangsan High, someone shouted. Kill him! The crowd wanted blood, not class rules. Seojun raised his hands. Calm down! I think you're misunderstanding something. Let's talk! The thug growled, grabbing him by the collar. You think talking works here? What are you even saying? He snarled. Words mean nothing here. Only one thing matters. Here, power is everything. He threw Seojun down hard, proving his point in one brutal move. The thug screamed as someone yanked his hair. Gah! He howled, eyes wide in pain. Gusera pulled hard. Oi! She shouted. Who said you could touch my teacher? He struggled, confused. Who the hell are you? Let me go, damn it. This school's for gangsters, she said, filled with violent punks no one else wanted. But in this chaos, this is my story from back in those school days. You! I growled, yanking him back. What the hell are you doing to our teacher? This school was my life, and I swore I'd protect my first love no matter what. 6 years ago, she stood alone, fists clenched, breath heavy, unwilling to back down. The older boys laughed from behind, amused by her anger, not sensing the fire inside. One of them stepped forward, surprised by her spirit, mocking her like it was nothing. They demanded submission, forced her to kneel, hoping to break her with taunts and threats. Gusera smirked through the pain, eyes burning resistance loud in her stance, apology never an option. She explained calmly he hurt girls, deserved the beating, and she saw no reason to apologize. The thug cracked his knuckles, stepping forward, face twisted with anger, ready to shut her down. Gusera stared him down, mocking his threats, daring him to act instead of running his mouth. Just before he could strike again, a sudden shout from behind froze him in place. Charging in with full force, the boy tackled him hard, eyes focused only on saving her. The thug lashed out furiously, shouting at the girl who dared scream and interfere again. She gasped in horror as he struck, watching Seojun take the full blow without flinching. Seojun collapsed to his knees, pain pulsing through him, but his eyes never left her. Surrounded and mocked, he was kicked again, her cries echoing as his body hit the ground. She wept silently, remembering his words, his calm voice still clear through her blurred, tear-filled vision. Seojun's gentle voice reassured her, his bruised face still carrying a calm, steady smile. Gusera never forgot that moment. His smile was clear, even while pain surrounded both their lives. Now in the present, chaos erupted inside the classroom as desks scattered and students panicked. One student rose with rage, shouting, face twisted, catching everyone off guard in a heartbeat. Panic spread fast as classmates screamed, confused and terrified. As the attacker lunged out of control, the student screamed in pain, clutching his scalp as others stood frozen, unsure what triggered it. Confused classmates glanced around, asking questions, but no one had a clue what just happened. Her fist trembled with rage, barely held back emotions building, jaw clenched tight, silence filled with fury. Everyone noticed the shift, her eyes locked on the target, fists clenched. She charged without hesitation. Before another strike landed, someone grabbed her fist midair, trying to stop things from escalating further. The class jumped into action, ending their prank with a dramatic pose for maximum effect. With a grin, she raised her phone, proudly showing off their secret recording to everyone. He repeated the words in disbelief, struggling to grasp what she meant by hidden camera. Laughter filled the room as the students backed her up, pretending it was all harmless. Her cheerful face turned cold, quietly threatening the others to play along or face the consequences. The boys awkwardly agreed with her, pretending it was all a joke to avoid trouble. They exaggerated their reactions, shouting about the prank, trying to shift attention with loud fake cheer. The class clapped together, banners raised high, welcoming their teacher with forced smiles and fake joy. She told them to stop, ordering her classmate to release the injured boy without resistance. Holding his bruised face, the boy apologized, claiming he couldn't control himself in the moment. The student begged nervously, asking the teacher to ignore his actions just this once. The teacher remained silent, thinking, while the students behind him anxiously waited for his reaction. One word echoed in his mind, Gangsan High, as realization struck and tension built in the room. He suddenly smiled wide, welcoming Seojun with surprising warmth and exaggerated cheer. Students whispered behind him, wondering if he believed it. relieved their chaotic act had worked. One student whispered, wondering if the trainee teacher had any idea who Gusera was. They couldn't imagine someone teaching peacefully while constantly dealing with her unpredictable attitude and presence. Seojun scratched his head, still confused, but hiding it behind a polite teacher's smile. Inside the education lab, silence filled the room as exhaustion lingered from the day's chaos. Sipping his drink, Nam Byung-woo muttered to himself, already tired from just the first day. Nam Byung-woo panicked, wondering if this chaotic place was really a proper high school. Day one felt like a nightmare, students fighting, ignoring class, and completely out of control. He shared his struggles, saying even when yelling, nobody listened, and it left him scared. He sighed, devastated after losing his lunch money during a bathroom mugging earlier that day. Staring at the wall, he regretted everything. This definitely wasn't the school he imagined training in. Seojun entered confidently. Beginning his first day as a trainee teacher at Gangsan High, other teachers greeted him warmly, asking how he was handling the school's rough environment. He smiled calmly and denied any problems, saying the students seemed kind and well-behaved. Meanwhile, the math teacher pointed to the board, continuing the lesson without noticing the tension. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed students, causing chaos again, and someone reacted in complete shock. The teacher questioned them, shocked they were quiet and actually listening during the lecture today. Students smiled suspiciously, pretending to be obedient while secretly plotting something beneath their calm expressions. Seojun praised the class, saying everyone stayed awake and the overall mood was surprisingly positive. He smiled genuinely, grateful for the chance to teach at Gangsan High, unaware of reality. In the hallway, tension returned. One student confronted another, acting as if he owned the space. Gusera bumped into a classmate who responded aggressively, annoyed by her walking in his path. Startled, she quickly turned, glaring back sharply, refusing to be intimidated by his attitude. Gusera apologized calmly, masking her temper, and walked off before tension could rise further. As she walked, she reflected on her near slip-up in front of Seojun earlier. Gusera questioned his presence. Why did he choose this messed-up school for teacher training? Gusera reached for a drink, startled when someone familiar suddenly placed a hand beside her. Gusera turned quickly, surprised to see him again, holding a drink and smiling gently. Seojun greeted her with warmth, acknowledging how long it had been since they last met. Outside, he asked her to talk, his tone calm. Wanting to reconnect and explain things, she brought up the past, how he left suddenly after forgetting his military enlistment notice. He admitted he forgot due to studying too much and losing track of time completely. Gusera quietly believed it, remembering how books always came first for someone like him. Seojun explained there was trouble after military service, which made it hard to reach out. She scolded him, frustrated he never contacted her even once, despite everything between them. Nearby students whispered, shocked at seeing Gusera talking so calmly with someone in public. She scolded herself internally, wondering why she was acting so flustered around him again. Despite her thoughts, she swatted his arm, then quickly apologized, realizing she'd hit him too hard. He casually asked about her living situation, recalling she once said her home was far. With a smile, he revealed the shocking answer: he was now staying at her house. Her eyes widened, stunned to learn someone let him stay without even telling her first. She was stunned, replaying childhood memories, realizing Seojun would now stay under the same roof. Those moments from the past flashed vividly, meals, conversations, and gentle gestures she hadn't forgotten. Gusera repeated the thought again. In disbelief, Seojun was really coming to stay at her house. He confirmed it casually, saying he'd live there again during training, just like before. She crushed her soda can, overwhelmed, silently bracing herself. Gusera, now 16, faced old emotions. Gusera unexpectedly reunited with her first love and would now live under the same roof. Their modest house stood quietly, holding memories from the past and new ones beginning today. Inside, a lottery ticket reminded someone that today's results were finally being announced on TV. The man watching jolted upright, eyes locked on the screen, heart racing with sudden excitement. Gu Ryong-hak, Gusera's father, once a legendary Surium champion, now desperate for a lottery win. Gusera arrived home furious, while her father greeted her cheerfully, completely unaware of her mood. He asked casually about dinner, mentioning he hadn't eaten and was saving his hunger for her. Gusera snapped coldly, saying he'd be eating pork again, and not in the way he expected. Seojun entered just in time, realizing no one warned him about her father's overwhelming personality. Later that night, they talked on the rooftop, clearing misunderstandings beneath a calm, open sky. Seojun stepped onto the rooftop, impressed by the nighttime view glowing under the full moon. He smiled softly, saying the place looked just as peaceful and beautiful as he remembered. Looking out, he reminisced about childhood memories playing on that very rooftop with Gusera long ago. Gusera finally spoke sincerely, expressing how happy she was to see him return again. He chuckled, reminding her he wasn't a full teacher yet, just a trainee for now. Seojun thanked her sincerely, his tone gentle, appreciating the warm welcome she gave him. Gusera responded softly, admitting she was also glad to see him return after so long. She paused, remembering his sudden disappearance, and he apologized for vanishing without saying anything. Her thoughts slipped caught off guard. She silently admitted he looked even more attractive now. Smiling, Seojun promised he wouldn't leave again, then asked how she ended up at Gangsan. Seojun explained the process. He needed this training to pass the teacher's certification exam. He said meeting students during training was necessary before becoming a certified teacher. Gusera asked why he chose Gangsan High, and he explained the application issue he faced. He revealed how important the training was, since failing could end his teaching dream permanently. Gusera reacted immediately, upset he'd consider quitting after working so hard to reach this point. Seojun reassured her with a smile, gently patting her head to ease her worries. Gusera froze at his touch, surprised by his warmth and confident words beneath the stars. He promised to become a great teacher and sincerely thanked her for always caring. Looking out over the rooftop, he felt optimistic, believing he chose the right school after all. But Gusera knew the truth. Everything felt peaceful only because he didn't truly understand yet. Gusera admitted the school's reality. Its reputation was terrible, filled with constant problems and chaos. Still smiling, Seojun said he couldn't wait to face tomorrow despite everything she described. Gusera smiled too, telling him not to worry. She believed he'd handle it just fine. Looking out at the city lights, she silently promised to protect his dream no matter what. The next morning, Seojun left the house, unaware of the surprises the new day held. Seojun stepped out, wondering if Gusera had already left early for school ahead of him. He thought about how early students seemed to head out compared to back in his day. Meanwhile, students were gathering, confused why they were called in so early without explanation. Some grumbled, thinking it might be because of rumors or school-wide disciplinary plans. Despite the uncertainty, one student stepped forward confidently, knowing they had no choice but comply. The students didn't care about rules or orders, not even when Gusera gave them. She stood firm, aware of the school's reputation and the chaos dominating every hallway. No trainee had survived this environment. The chance of successfully finishing training here was basically zero. Gusera realized if things continued, Seojun's dream would collapse before it even had a chance. Facing the school, she made her decision. Starting today, she would change Gangsan High completely. Gusera declared a 4-week school reform plan, determined to clean up everything dragging them down. She laid out strict rules: no fighting, no smoking, no drinking, and no public urination. Students were shocked, muttering curses, but her tone left no room for debate or rebellion. She made it clear any obstacle blocking Seojun's path would be removed without hesitation. She stared them down, asking for objections, fully prepared to crush any defiance immediately. A loud crash echoed as her fist slammed into the school wall with terrifying force. The cracked wall silenced everyone. Her punch alone made the rules sound extremely serious now. She calmly repeated her question, daring anyone to challenge her again after that display. From a distance, Seojun watched, surprised but comforted. Gusera was doing this to support his dream. With unwavering resolve, she prepared to speak again, warning anyone who dared to interrupt. With fierce determination, Gusera challenged them all, ready to fight for Seojun's dream without hesitation. Gusera stood silently by the gate, her eyes sharp, waiting for a response again. The sunlight pierced through as students passed, ignoring the tension building at the school entrance. With firm steps and defiance, she climbed the wall, refusing to stay silent any longer. A sudden punch cracked the glass behind her, matching the fire blazing in her expression. From below, the boys muttered insults, confused by her boldness and unwilling to face her. Baek Junsu answered with a shrug, unsure, brushing off the tension rising among the curious students. The name carried weight. His loyalty to her wasn't questioned, even if her actions were. They watched her closely, uncertain if this confrontation would turn loud, wild, or something worse. Her words struck hard. She stood calm but intense, her question silencing the group instantly. Someone called from behind, unknowingly stepping into the brewing storm unfolding near the school grounds. He greeted them warmly, surprised they arrived earlier than expected on such a quiet morning. His smile faded slightly, noticing their stiff posture and uneasy expression as they approached him. Seojun asked gently, confused by their silence and the exhausted look across both their faces. One of them admitted frustration, dreading another day dealing with the students' unpredictable behavior again. He tried defending the students, still unsure why his colleagues seemed unusually tense since yesterday. Gusera questioned his view, suggesting he was the one misunderstanding what this school really was. The school's reputation echoed loudly, no, not for achievement, but for constant chaos and bad headlines. He paused, watching the crowd of students, suddenly reminded of the warning signs he ignored. Without warning, a student shouted aggressively, causing a sharp stir and confirming their earlier concerns. The angry student mocked him directly, challenging authority with zero hesitation in front of everyone. Gusera stepped back, startled, unsure what to make of the strange object in his hand. He grinned widely, proudly explaining they were simply helping to clean around the school grounds. Confused by his cheerfulness, the teachers exchanged glances, trying to understand what was really happening. Suddenly, a group of students greeted them loudly, bowing as if everything was completely normal. Polite words continued as they worked, but the teachers were left unsure how to even respond. Gusera stared down in disbelief, watching the group behave in a completely different way today. None of it made sense. Was this a prank, or some strange setup behind the scenes? Gusera couldn't believe the drastic change. Everything felt too clean, too polite, too sudden. He repeated calmly what he'd said before, still trusting that their behavior wasn't an act. Gusera tried to stay composed, walking off, still unsure how to process the bizarre morning. He clenched his jaw tightly, fingers twitching, trying hard to resist the growing urge inside. His legs shook under the desk, nerves on edge, every second without a fix unbearable. He exhaled sharply, chewing a pen just to keep from losing control completely in class. He mumbled to himself, desperate, his thoughts clouded by the sudden restriction and overwhelming withdrawal symptoms. Across the room, others struggled too, confused by this abrupt change that left everyone craving more. Frustrated and restless, one student erupted, demanding a way to release their built-up stress. Another trembled, overwhelmed by withdrawal, convinced they wouldn't last much longer under these strict rules. Whispers spread fast should they sneak out, but fear of getting caught held them back. The mention of her name made them hesitate. No one wanted to challenge her directly. Suddenly, he stopped and sniffed the air, confused and drawn to a sweet, tempting scent. One of them pointed, alerting the others to what was happening near the upper floor. They were stunned. Some students had started smoking outside, ignoring the ban without any concern. The smell reached others quickly, stirring temptation and disbelief as more students noticed the scene. Tempted by the scent, one student whispered a reckless idea. Unaware of who stood behind, Gusera appeared suddenly, furious, charging in after hearing someone mention smoking on the school grounds. Gusera leapt from above, fury in her eyes, launching herself straight toward the gathered students. They didn't notice her yet, laughing and chatting casually, completely unaware of the incoming danger. A loud crash followed. Everyone turned their heads in shock as her feet hit the ground. Her voice thundered with rage. Furious, they ignored the rules she clearly laid out before. The group froze, whispering that she must have been some kind of warrior in her past life. He charged forward recklessly, but she countered instantly, striking hard, with a precise, punishing blow. Standing tall, she watched him collapse, unbothered by the impact or those still watching nearby. One student mumbled in awe, realizing her punches weren't just fast, they were incredibly powerful too. Another stepped in to stop her, warning that the beatings might actually land someone in hospital. He questioned her efforts, wondering why she cared so much about changing how things were. Gusera snapped, reminding everyone that students shouldn't be fighting or smoking at school to begin with. He scoffed silently, recalling how wild she'd been just the day before during her fight. In the teacher's room, frustration grew. They worried this wouldn't stop unless something changed soon. Some thought she was going overboard, questioning if punishment really matched what the students did. Outside, she froze for a moment, spotting someone ahead that immediately caught her attention. He reminded her firmly, if she planned to change things, she needed a real reason. His tone stayed light, but his words carried weight, urging her to consider her actions. She smiled, brushing it off, clearly uninterested in explaining anything to anyone around her. Her confidence didn't waver. She'd rather fight again than explain herself to the other teachers. The others stood silently, watching from a distance, unsure how long this boldness would last. Yoon Jung-ju slammed his fist down, frustrated beyond words, unable to accept the new school rules. He shouted angrily, questioning why a school would suddenly ban something students had always gotten away with. He ranted further, comparing the situation to extreme control, convinced it was totally unreasonable. His friend stepped in, trying to calm him, but the anger wasn't easy to stop. Yoon Jung-ju yelled back, furious that one woman was suddenly flipping their whole school upside down. Choi Dong-yoon guessed aloud that all this sudden change started after the new intern teacher arrived. Rumors spread fast. Some recalled a good-looking intern who recently began working at the school. People whispered they seemed familiar with each other, sharing something deeper than simple workplace greetings. It looked too natural, like something unspoken had existed between them even before school started. Hearing all this, one student exploded in anger, burning with jealousy over the intern's presence. Yoon Jung-ju stormed off, furious that everything had changed just because of one intern and her influence. Frustrated, he hit the wall, wishing their strongest member wasn't gone during such chaos. Yoon Jung-ju believed things wouldn't have fallen apart if their old leader had still been around. Another student reminded him that their leader was in juvie now and couldn't help anymore. They accepted the situation, deciding to act instead of waiting for someone else to fix things. He asked what they should do now, hoping someone had a clear answer or plan. The other replied calmly, saying drastic times left them with only one possible solution, a coup. Confusion spread. Some didn't understand the word, unsure what he truly meant by that idea. He confirmed it with a nod as the group stared, unsure if he was serious. They discussed the new restrictions: no smoking, no fighting, no alcohol. Everything had changed too fast. He mocked the rules, asking if they were now living under government control at school. His anger grew as he questioned whether this control would really end after just a month. He shouted, rallying others, warning that unless they acted, nothing around them would ever change. Without waiting, he lit a cigarette defiantly, showing he wouldn't accept the new restrictions silently. He declared they couldn't do anything else now, just smoke and survive under these ridiculous changes. They grumbled together, questioning why they had to follow rules made by just one teacher. Confidence grew: they had numbers, and they believed it was enough to push back hard. Jealousy surfaced too. Some couldn't stand that the one giving orders now was a woman. They lit a flame, declaring it the start of their revolt against her authority. United by anger, they rallied everyone, shouting their plan to take the school back. Their plan was set. The rooftop echoed with chants. They were ready to rise together. Someone shouted the start. It was officially a coup, and the rooftop roared with agreement. They claimed it was time for a regime change, convinced no one could stop them, but heavy footsteps approached. The sound shifted the energy instantly across the group. A sudden impact shook the rooftop. Everyone turned in shock as the ground burst beneath. Everyone froze the moment she landed, knowing instantly they were in serious trouble now. She reminded them calmly that nicotine was clearly banned, no exceptions, no excuses allowed. Her back faced them as silence fell. None dared speak as tension filled the rooftop. She turned, pretending curiosity, questioning their so-called meeting with a look that froze their thoughts. Her tone sharpened. One word: coup, and the entire rooftop entered extreme alert without another warning. With one bold challenge, she stood alone, ready to face all 512 students at once. A strange gathering on the rooftop signaled something serious: too many faces, tension rising fast. Gusera arrived without hesitation, eyes sharp, footsteps firm, silencing whispers before anyone could speak back. The boys flinched at her glare. No one expected her to show up this soon. Gusera stepped closer and spoke calmly, ignoring their confusion, throwing out a warning without emotion. Under moonlight, her threat landed clearly: quit smoking now, or face consequences that wouldn't just sting. They gathered with fake courage, watching her closely, pretending their numbers made them feel safer. Gusera walked slowly, scanning the crowd, not a single hint of worry on her face. One of them stepped forward, trying to sound brave, claiming they had control this time. His voice grew louder, fists clenched, announcing the end of her reign with reckless confidence. Their chants erupted fast, fueled by fear, not purpose, shouting words they didn't fully understand or mean. They called it an execution, yelling louder, trying to scare her with their fake pride. One shouted and charged ahead, expecting others to follow, hoping numbers would crush her resolve. The leader launched his fist forward, calling it justice, but missed the fear in her stance. Gusera turned calmly, caught his punch midair, her grip tight, her eyes colder than before. With blood on her hand, she reminded him he was warned, but he chose violence instead. Lim Minsung threw another punch, putting everything into it, hoping brute strength could change the tide, but she struck first, landing a hit straight to his jaw with brutal speed and force. His head spun instantly, pain exploded. He staggered back, shocked at how hard she actually hit. Lim Minsung admitted it silently: this wasn't normal strength. She wasn't someone a student should face alone. Still, he shouted louder, gathering others again. If numbers were enough, maybe she'd finally fall today. The student raised his mop, declaring a revolution against the school's notorious bullies. Everyone froze, confused by his boldness, until blood spurted from the stunned gang's noses. One thug collapsed to the ground, knocked out cold by the mop's surprise strike. The leader barked orders, frustrated as his men hesitated, unsure of what just happened. He gritted his teeth, panicking inside. If this continued, his perfect plan would unravel. Gusera recalled a comic book line while facing the gang with cold determination. She reminded them of humanity's greatest sins, something that history could never forgive. Tension hit hard. One thug's eyes widened, realizing the serious intent behind her words. Fear spread. The gang trembled, bloodied and panicked, asking each other if they should retreat. But Gusera stepped forward, blocking their path. Calmly, she ordered them to stop immediately. Gusera grabbed the thug's collar, glaring fiercely. "Where do you think you're running off to?" The gang froze. One muttered in despair, realizing they had no way to escape now. Cut to a peaceful school hallway. The education training room door quietly creaked open. Inside, Seojun turned his head, puzzled by the noise coming from outside the room. Gusera casually appeared by the window, grinning. "Seojun Oppa!" she called out brightly. Gusera noticed Seojun still at school and asked why he hadn't gone home yet. He smiled and replied he had something to finish, then suggested walking home together with her. As they strolled through the empty hallway, Gusera asked about his school life experience. Seojun reassured her with a smile, saying everything was peaceful and no one bothered him. Hearing that, Gusera raised an eyebrow, surprised. She softly asked again, "Really?" Seojun smiled brightly. expressing how happy he was to be at Gangsang High. Gusera nervously responded, heart pounding, thinking how handsome he looked when he smiled. She quietly remembered there were only 3 weeks left until Seojin's teaching internship ended. When asked about school, she proudly said she just handled some troublemakers earlier today. She laughed, confident things would stay peaceful, while one thug dangled upside down in total shock. The gang leader growled at his men, frustrated by the refusal to continue the fight. They mumbled that a revolution can't work without a strong, fearless leader guiding them. He was stunned to hear they believed he lacked the presence to face Gusera. They admitted losing motivation after witnessing a freshman knock him out with one punch. Now punished, the gang sat in formation waiting until Gusera's cigarette smell finally disappeared. The failed coup at Gangsang High became yesterday's news order slowly returned by morning. Gusera stood outside the school gates, arms crossed, inspecting the scene with quiet satisfaction. She spotted the troublemakers scrubbing the yard, bruised but obedient. "Not bad," she muttered. Without raising her voice, she told them to finish cleaning before entering the school. Waving casually, Gusera smiled and walked ahead. "Good luck," she said without looking back. Frustrated, the gang grumbled while cleaning, cursing Gusera for making them work so hard. Suddenly, the loud roar of an approaching motorcycle interrupted their complaints and shook the ground. A student calmly stepped aside, puzzled by the noise. "Out of the way," someone warned. Everyone turned as 2 riders on a powerful motorcycle sped straight toward the courtyard. The gang panicked. "If we had a real leader," one yelled just before screaming in fear. A thug nervously pointed at the student, who got in their way during cleanup. The red-haired rider stepped forward, asking coldly if the punk wanted to die today. The gang instantly panicked, recognizing the voice. One of them shouted the name, "Yopo!" Yo Unsu, 19 years old, calmly sat back on his bike, radiating intimidating energy. He casually brushed his hair back, looking around. This was the infamous fighter, Yopo. One thug asked Yopo why he was back early, since parole wasn't over yet. Yopo shrugged casually, saying they now call it a temporary discharge instead of parole. He sniffed the air, unimpressed. "What's with the low nicotine level around here?" he asked. He looked at the gang's injuries and tools. "Why are your faces all bruised?" The thug scratched his cheek, awkwardly smiling. "About that," he muttered, avoiding a direct answer. Inside classroom 1-3, a loud slam echoed as an arm wrestling match reached its peak. Gusera grinned confidently as her opponent stared in disbelief at her overwhelming strength. He nervously asked if she was the one who knocked out gangsters yesterday. Gusera scoffed and teased him, asking if he tires from just a few fights. She pointed casually and declared, "Loser buys drinks." Her smirk showed she meant business. As class neared, the student rushed off, grumbling about Gusera's ridiculous physical strength. He muttered insults under his breath, worried she'd punish him again for being late. Down the hall, Yopo walked surrounded by students, his presence impossible to ignore. The blonde student stared in shock. "Who the hell is that huge guy?" Yopo suddenly slammed his fist into a locker, making everyone freeze in total silence. Yopo looked across the classroom and asked if she was the rumored troublemaker. Gusera wrinkled her nose, annoyed by the foul cigarette smell drifting across the room. Someone nervously explained that Gusera was Gangsang High's top student and not to be provoked. Yopo lit a cigarette anyway. Gusera instantly reacted, glaring at him without hesitation. With a sharp move, Gusera flipped him, slamming him hard to the floor, class stunned silent. Yopo stood, groaning as he pulled himself up after getting thrown across the classroom wall. Still smoking, he turned around and asked coldly, "What are you doing right now?" Gusera didn't flinch. She told him to put out his cigarette immediately, no exceptions allowed. Yopo froze in place, startled by her dominance. The class held their breath silently. One student whispered, "Can he do that?" Another replied, "Just watch, dude. She's serious." Yopo sneered, demanding respect and mocking Gusera for not showing proper manners to seniors. He cursed at her, losing his temper. As the tension between them peaked sharply, Gusera snapped back, declaring he was insane and charged forward without any hesitation. In a flash, she launched him through the air with a single clean strike. The onlookers stared, stunned into silence, completely overwhelmed by Gusera's sheer strength and precision. Gusera lunged forward with a punch, aiming straight at Yopo without holding anything back. To her shock, Yopo caught her fist midair, halting her attack completely. She stared in disbelief. No one had ever stopped her punch like that before. Yopo looked at her with wide eyes, clearly impressed by her unexpected strength. With a grin, he muttered, "You're quite cute," leaving Gusera momentarily speechless. Baekjunsu walked into school calmly, holding a drink in a suspicious black plastic bag. He sipped her drink confidently, eyes scanning the hallway for any signs of unusual activity. A crowd near the classroom caught her attention. Students whispered and glanced nervously at something ahead. Baekjunsu pushed through the students, curious and slightly irritated. "Why is everyone gathered here now?" Suddenly, her eyes widened. Shock hit her hard. Whatever he saw clearly wasn't expected today. Gusera's mind raced. She pushed through the crowd. What's going on here now? She spotted a tall, red-haired guy forcefully grabbing a student's wrist, smirking without remorse. The hallway sign read, Class 1. Everyone froze as Gusera stepped closer without hesitation. He turned, locking eyes with her. You're quite cute, he said with a smug grin. I like you, he added boldly. As a woman, I mean. Gusera's expression turned stone cold. Without hesitation, Gusera stepped forward and kicked hard, aiming straight for the red-haired guy. He tried to block the hit, but her strength caught him completely off guard. Her voice was firm. Are you done talking? She yelled. Then die, she added. From the back, a teacher entered mid-chaos and called out, Kids! Holding attendance sheets, he continued calmly. The bell has rung. Get to your seats now. The teacher asked, Are you fighting right now? Gusera raised both hands, smiling nervously. What? No, we're not! She blurted out, trying to look calm and innocent. The red-haired guy stood stunned. What the hell? She suddenly became gentle, he thought. Meanwhile, a man outside sneered, Gangsan High is ruled by Gusera. She's obsessed. Back in class, the teacher chuckled. Haha, so you were kidding? He bought her act. The teacher calmly said, Then, will everyone have a seat? Students hesitantly started moving. Gusera turned to him and said coldly, Oi, come to the rooftop after school. I'll kill you then, she added bluntly. He grinned, impressed. How snippy, he replied amusedly. He leaned closer and smirked. I like you, Gusera. You'll be mine. Walking away, he threw a wink. See you later, cutie, echoing through the stunned classroom. Gusera stood frozen, forcing a smile. Should I kill him right now? She wondered seriously. He turned in the hallway, looking smug, unaware that Gusera hadn't dropped the issue yet. Suddenly, his hand twitched. A strange jolt surged through his arm. Something was off. Before he could react, Gusera launched forward with a punch, aiming straight for his face. His body flew back through the hallway. Gusera! Someone whispered in awe behind him. The bulky man stretched and smiled. Ah, I feel so refreshed, he said confidently. He grinned at the red-haired guy. You're still the same as before. Never changed. I knew you'd be the leader of Gangsan High. He chuckled darkly, eyes narrowing. The red-haired guy clenched his fist tightly. I want to own her, he muttered coldly. But before that, I should get rid of that annoying guy, right? He said. Gusera scoffed. What the hell? That strawberry-colored hair. I'll grind him into juice. She stormed off angrily, unaware of the full story behind who he really was. Huh? Yopo? She repeated. Her classmate looked shocked she didn't know the name. You don't know the legendary biker of Gangsan High, Yopo? He asked, stunned. Flashback, Yo Unsu, a.k.a. Yopo. Feared for two terrifying reasons nobody dares question. The first reason Yopo is feared, his overwhelming strength capable of defeating entire gangs alone. The second reason, he burned through tons of money modifying his illegal racing bike. To maximize its horsepower, he pushed his custom-built Red Stallion beyond its mechanical limits. There's even a famous story about Yopo and the Red Stallion from Gangsan streets. One night, Red Stallion was spotted again. Bikers around it froze, recognizing what it meant. A calm voice echoed across the lot. Give it to me, the stranger demanded firmly. Yopo stepped forward, eyes locked on the motorcycle. My Red Stallion, he growled without hesitation. Another man scoffed. Red Stallion? You mean my red cheetah? He said arrogantly, mocking him. The gang noticed the tension. He's coming this way, they whispered, backing off nervously. Yopo's eyes gleamed. No, that's my Red Stallion, he said, voice low but dangerous. Yopo grabbed a huge pipe. This is your last shot to run away. One guy panicked. Man really brought out a pipe over a bike argument? Their leader yelled, What are you guys doing? This crazy fucker needs medicine. Him up, the command echoed. The gang charged, thinking numbers would end this quickly. Too late. Yopo smashed the ground with force, scattering them like broken puppets in shock. Kekeke. Of course he wouldn't give it up just like that, the guy mocked. He smirked with confidence. Struggle as much as you want. That's more fun anyway. On that day, Yopo fought more than 20 people by himself without holding back once. And like that, with a lit cigarette, Red Stallion welcomed its one true master. The defeated leader stared in disbelief. No way. My red cheetah, he muttered in shock. Yopo stood beside his bike in the rain, his eyes fixated on Red Stallion. He approached slowly. No, he muttered again, dominance clear in every step he took. A voice echoed in his mind, it's my Red Stallion, full of obsession and fury, overflowing possessiveness and unstoppable strength. This is the man everyone fears. His name is Yopo. In school, a teacher muttered, he got out early. Something needs to be done. Hey, are you sleeping? Someone shouted, waking Gusera from her desk nap immediately. Gusera yawned. I just need to deal with one gangster punk. Won't take long, she stretched casually. It'll be over once I give him a little taste, she said. Suddenly, a girl burst into the classroom. Gusera, there's a problem, she cried. Right now, Unsu is with our trainee teacher. The words made Gusera's eyes sharpen fast. What? They went to the rooftop, someone yelled, and tension instantly filled the classroom air. Upstairs, the trainee teacher stood calmly. Excuse me, he called out with quiet confidence. You said you wanted to talk to me, he asked, facing Yopo directly. Yopo sneered. Looks like I need to remove some obstacles. Is he the right one? Yes, he's the teacher that girl cares about. Yopo's eyes narrowed. Teacher, he repeated darkly. Yopo glared. This punk is wasting his looks, he thought, already annoyed by his presence. He approached with disgust. What an annoying face, he muttered, ready to stir things up. Student, you can't smoke at school, the teacher warned. Yopo scoffed. What the fuck, you retard? Stop that bullshit and worry about your girl, if you don't want to die. Yopo turned away. Next time, it won't end with a warning, he said without looking back. I don't know what you're talking about, but... the teacher replied, holding his ground. School is a no-smoking zone, he added firmly, staring straight at Yopo's furious glare. Cigarettes get confiscated, he finished, swiping the cigarette cleanly from Yopo's hand without hesitation. Yopo blinked in shock, clearly not expecting that move. The moment turned dead silent. Suddenly, Gusera burst onto the rooftop, yelling, Seojun Oppa! Eyes locked on the teacher. Without warning, Yopo launched a brutal strike, sending the teacher crashing down with raw force. Two students watching from afar gasped in shock, their faces filled with disbelief. Gusera stood frozen, blood on her uniform. Her calm eyes locked straight onto Yopo. Yopo turned slowly, flicking blood from his hand. Don't order me around, he muttered coldly. The teacher struggled on the ground, stunned by the sheer impact of Yopo's attack. Gusera stepped in, kicking hard. Yopo, you're trash, she said, without hesitation or fear. Her powerful strike sent him crashing down, the entire rooftop shaking under the impact. Kuha! Yopo screamed in pain, blood flying as he reeled from the unexpected blow. Gusera calmly adjusted her uniform. Her silence spoke louder than any threat or insult. She dropped her jacket beside him like a challenge. This fight wasn't over yet. Gusera rolled up her sleeve, eyes blazing. You son of a bitch, she growled deeply. Students gathered as the school bell rang. Outside, tension buzzed in the bright morning air. Without warning, Gusera launched a powerful punch, sending a delinquent flying through the air. Yopo groaned in pain, clearly caught off guard by her speed and unrelenting strength. Don't be offended, Gusera muttered. Her eyes locked on the next troublemaker approaching fast. There's still some time left, she froze, sensing something strange as her eyes widened in shock. Yopo caught her mid-attack and smirked. You're too obvious. Holding her tightly without effort? I've met tons of girls, but this guy's strength, Gusera thought, caught in his grip. You're the first to bust my lip, he grinned, blood trickling down, oddly impressed. Now I want you even more, Gusera, Yopo shouted, eyes filled with obsession. You're crazy, she spat, kicking hard. He laughed, blocking her. I'll give you as much. Teacher! Gusera yelled, sprinting toward the scene, urgency in her eyes and voice. A student panicked beside the collapsed man. What do we do? He's not dead, right? He fainted, another answered. We have to get him to a hospital immediately, no delay. Gusera stared at the red-haired man. Your nickname is Yopo? She asked skeptically. Wasn't Yopo hung in the Three Kingdoms? She muttered, eyeing him with deep suspicion. I'll execute you, she threatened coldly, fists clenched, eyes sharp with unwavering intent. Must you yell so loud? Your voice ruins my day, the thug mocked carelessly. Leave it, his partner said, smirking. I've dealt with girls like her before. It took 2 days to get her. The chase made it more exciting. She's more fun to tame, he grinned, eyes fixed on Gusera like a prize. Under the quiet moonlight, the school rooftop remained empty, calm, and almost eerily silent. She spotted someone sitting alone. Her steps slowed, her breath caught at the sight. Seojun Oppa, she whispered, hand rising to her lips, emotions swirling in her chest. Yopo must be in shock. He got hit by a student and fainted. Suddenly, he trembled. A drop of blood trailed from his neck, startling her completely. Seojun Oppa! She shouted, rushing forward, thinking he might be hurt again. Did the injury from earlier? She panicked, seeing him holding his side. She paused. He was casually eating ramen, completely fine under the rooftop lights. Eh? She blinked, confused by the sudden shift from fear to normalcy. Haha, I'm sorry for surprising you. I was craving a late-night snack. Tisk. You scared me. You were punched. How are you feeling? Gusera asked, concern visible on her face. I'm a lot better now, Yopo replied, smiling gently to ease her worries. That red-haired kid is really strong. He'd be great at martial arts, he added. Is that the problem right now? He hit a teacher, she shouted, furious. As she ranted, he patted her head softly. I'm fine, Gusera, he assured. Getting punched by a student doesn't hurt as much as guiding them wrongly, he said. Helping students stay on the right path. Isn't that the role of a teacher? Gusera looked at him silently, remembering his words and calm presence through every moment. Right, Seojun Oppa has always been like this. Even when others gave up, he once stepped in. Students, you mustn't smoke! Even gangster kids stared at him confused. Even gangster kids would change their tone after hearing a few serious words from him. But at Gangsan High, those rules didn't matter. That place was on another level. There are people in this world who can't be stopped by words alone, like the trash here in Gangsan High, ignoring authority and laughing in teachers' faces. This is the faculty restroom, and you can't smoke at school, he warned calmly. Put it out immediate fick, the student cursed, clearly not caring about school rules at all. He took a long drag, glared, and sneered, "Want to get beaten up, textbook nerd?" The teacher didn't flinch, but his eyes tightened as the student stepped closer, threateningly. Suddenly, a loud stomp interrupted them, scattering cigarette pieces across the floor in silence. "Oi, this kid," Gusera said coldly, stepping in without hesitation, eyes locked on the smoker. "What the hell are they doing?" Gusera muttered, confused by the chaotic classroom scene. The students were fighting wildly, shouting nonsense as chairs and fists flew everywhere uncontrollably. "Who dares attack juniors for fun?" Another yelled, joining the madness like it was normal. "First period is drinking and dancing?" someone exclaimed, clutching drinks mid-chaos. Gusera's face twisted in disbelief. "Did these fuckers take drugs together?" she growled. "Look at this," she said, stepping forward. Yopo started moving. The message flashed on the screen, triggering immediate tension in the hallway. A new text popped up. "They need a proper check from you. Yopo approves." With a loud thud, someone crashed to the floor right in front of them. "Seojun Oppa?" Gusera gasped, eyes wide as she rushed toward his motionless body. "Oi, teach," a cold voice echoed behind her, a shadow cast over the fallen man. "If you wanted to play teacher, you should have gone somewhere else," the student mocked. "Mr. Seojun!" The other students watched in shock, unable to move or say anything. "Why come to Gangsan High to do something useless? I want to bust heads," laughter echoed. "This is ficking awesome," one said. "I feel so refreshed," another smirked. Gusera clenched her fists, her eyes burning. Something inside her had finally snapped hard. Gusera sprinted forward without hesitation, fury in her eyes targeting the bully mid-kick. The attacker turned slightly. Confused by her sudden charge, he had no time to react. "Kuha!" he cried as Gusera slammed her fist straight into his jaw. No mercy. "What are you doing to the teacher?" she yelled, chaos erupting in the classroom. "Huff! Huff!" Gusera stood tall among the fallen, fists clenched, the classroom silent in awe. "Gusera!" someone muttered, shocked, as she held up a bloodied thug without effort. "You!" Seojun stared in disbelief, trying to process the power and fury she unleashed. "You were like this?" he thought, surprised by the sight of her he never knew. "Don't stand out," she warned coldly. "Next time I'll rip your tongue out." "Mr. Seojun! Are you all right?" one asked, while others retreated. "Let's have a smoke," they said. Gusera clenched her fist tightly. "Should I just fight them all right now?" "No. I need to address the root cause, the real reason this school's broken." Yopo arrived, unfazed. "The hallway is so noisy," he muttered while looking around casually. "Is there a problem?" he asked smugly, muscles exposed, surrounded by students like bodyguards. "Yopo! Don't ignore me! You think I don't know who caused this chaos?" she shouted. "You're cute," Yopo said suddenly, grinning, his tone unsettling in the quiet hallway. "What?" Gusera froze slightly, her instincts immediately on edge, unsure what he was planning. "I'll grant you anything you wish, even spare that teacher, if that's what you want." His smile widened darkly. "You just have to say it, that you'll be mine." Gusera stood silently, her back straight. She didn't answer, but her rage was boiling. "All right. If I become your woman, you won't touch Seojun Oppa, right?" she asked. Yopo smirked. "What did you say?" he started, leaning in with interest. Before he finished, Gusera exploded forward, fist aimed with purpose and rage burning in her. One thug blinked in confusion, startled by the sudden turn of events. Another student gasped, stunned by Gusera's bold move, eyes wide with surprise. The student's jaw dropped, unable to believe what just happened in front of him. "What? Why? Gusera just kiss Yopo!" he shouted, watching in total disbelief. "Oi, strawberry head, you like me like that?" she asked, tone sharp and cold. "All right then, let's go outside." On a date, Gusera smirked, hiding her real plan. The city blurred past as the bike roared. Gusera clung on steady and silent. Yopo glanced back, smirking. "You're better than expected." Most froze or screamed. Gusera stayed composed. Wind howled around them. "Say the word," he said. "Red Stallion can go anywhere." She hesitated, thoughts swirling, heart racing. Finally, she whispered, "Take me somewhere quiet, somewhere calm." Eyes soft but firm, she gazed ahead, ready to escape, even just for today. The bike stopped at a red light. He turned, confused by her quiet request. She leaned closer, voice calm. "You know, a place with no one else." Yopo stiffened slightly, surprised. Her words echoed just the two of them, away from everything. Yopo smiled, heart racing. A girl from Gangsan High really knows how to shock. Gusera grinned behind him. "Okay," she said. For once, she wanted something just for herself. They arrived at an old building, quiet, empty, sun shining, a perfect escape from everything. "No one will bother us here," he said, leading her inside without looking back. Gusera looked around, surprised. "How did you find this place?" she asked, eyes scanning everything. "I own it," he answered flatly, already moving toward the back without any more explanation. Yopo tossed his jacket aside. "Let's get down to business." Gusera froze, completely caught off guard. Gusera locked the door behind her. "We're probably here for the same reason." She stepped forward calmly. "You want this too, right?" Her voice was steady, unshaken. Yopo smirked as she approached. "That's right. Let's stop talking and just act now." Without hesitation, she launched a kick. "No one's watching? Great! You deserve this, bastard!" Yopo laughed, unfazed, but Gusera's glare said everything she was done playing along. He caught her strike, smirking. "You're cunning as expected, always playing a step ahead." Still holding her hand, he sneered. "Did you plan this? Bring me here alone?" Gusera held her ground. "Yes, I knew exactly what would happen here today." His tone shifted. "Why are you doing this?" She answered with no hesitation, eyes sharp. "Why? You ruined school life, fought others, claimed I belonged to you. That's why." She remembered his smirk, how he laughed after threatening others without a care in school. That day, he grabbed her wrist roughly in front of everyone, smiling like it's normal. "You even hit a teacher," she growled. "Like rules and people meant nothing to you." Her fist clenched tight, shaking with anger. She couldn't hold it in anymore. "And you're asking me why?" she shouted, sending her fist straight at his face. Their fists clashed with force, the sound echoing through the empty space like a warning. He blocked her punch midair, grinning. She didn't back down, eyes locked on his. "Oh? You really think your strength can match mine?" he asked with growing amusement. She narrowed her eyes. "What?" His sudden shift in tone caught her completely off guard. "There was a woman once," he said coldly. "A half-decent one. Skilled, not soft. She was tough, proud. Wouldn't give in," he recalled, eyes dark with twisted admiration. "She resisted, shouted at me. 'Back off or I'll slam you into the ground!'" Yopo stared straight ahead. "You know how I got her attention?" His voice turned serious. "Strength," he growled, body tense, veins bulging. "She cried once she knew she couldn't win." Yopo grinned cruelly. That moment when a woman realizes strength wins, it's unforgettable. Gusera's expression hardened. Gusera shifted her footing, steadying herself. This time she was ready for whatever came next. Yopo grabbed her arm hard. "I'll show you now," he said, eyes wild. "How an alpha male," he shouted, pulling her close with aggressive force, "gets a woman!" With a sudden burst, he launched her backward violently, muscles straining with brutal intent. Mid-air, Gusera's eyes widened. "What?" Her thoughts scrambled to react before impact. Gusera crashed hard into the wall, impact cracking the air. Her body tensed in pain. She growled, fists clenched. "What kind of dumb bastard actually does that to someone?" Yopo grinned darkly. "Struggle. Keep fighting. It makes breaking your spirit more satisfying later." They clashed again, fists flying, bodies spinning in a brutal exchange of strength and rage. Gusera gasped, taking a direct hit. "Ack!" The force knocked her backward mid-counterattack. Gusera steadied her stance, wiping blood. "This is a first," she muttered to herself. She dashed forward again, eyes focused. "My first time since admissions facing this kind of strength." Her expression shifted, shock mixed with excitement. This wasn't just defense anymore, it was real challenge. Yopo cracked his knuckles. "I'm curious. What kind of face will you show when?" Before he finished, Gusera's punch landed cleanly, shutting him up with sheer force and fury. He chuckled through blood. "What's this?" Her punch had landed, but he didn't flinch. "Cute punch," he mocked, twisting his neck slightly. His eyes burned, and Gusera braced herself. She gritted her teeth. Iron chin, strawberry hair. He's strong, really strong. Her jaw ached. Yopo stepped forward slowly, fists clenched. "Do you feel it?" he asked, voice low. "The difference in strength?" He growled, swinging a punch that sent Gusera flying across the room. Gusera clenched her jaw. "Strength, strength, strength. Is that all that matters to you?" Yopo grinned. "Isn't it the same for you? Don't pretend you're different." She froze. "What?" His words hit a nerve. Her eyes widened in sudden realization. He sneered. "You wanted strength too, just to impress that damn trainee teacher at school." Her anger flared. To gain his attention. "That's not why I fought!" she shouted. Yopo swung without hesitation, fist cracking through the air, determined to break through her resistance. Smiling through the pain, he admitted admiration for her spirit, her resolve, her understanding of strength. To him, power meant everything. Through sheer strength, love or war, everything could be seized. She clashed back just as fiercely, her body bloodied, but her fire undiminished. With one final punch, emotion and fury collided, blood spattered as silence fell over the water. Yopo admitted he once tried understanding her ideals, her views, her reasons for fighting. But now, bloodied and breathless, she could only stare, realizing his conviction wouldn't waver anymore. Despite pain, she smirked faintly, acknowledging his truth. She wasn't entirely right after all. Yopo surged forward again, shouting that strength decides everything. Every blow meant survival, nothing more. Shaken and stunned, she collapsed, barely whispering, "What kind of strength? Was that just now?" "Even wounded," he shouted, refusing to back down. Charging with raw power and clenched fists, Gusera countered fiercely, declaring that real fights need more than brute strength, they require precision and control. She struck low, swift and calculated, her foot aiming sharply toward his thigh with force. Next came the waist, twisting her body perfectly, building momentum for the final decisive movement. With power and technique aligned, her punch landed straight, knocking him back with clean, undeniable impact. Her punch connected squarely with his face, shocking him, forcing his head violently to the side. Gusera didn't stop. Momentum carried her forward, repeating her words. "A fight is supposed to be fought with your lower body!" she roared, slamming him down with overwhelming force. Yopo screamed, pain and fear twisting across his bloodied face, unable to respond or resist anymore. Gusera stepped forward again, voice steady, and most importantly, ready to finish what she started. Gusera remembered his words. "You can't force someone's heart. It won't stay through power alone." His gentle voice echoed again, reminding her that presence, not pressure, makes someone choose to stay. Seojun smiled warmly. His expression, clear love, was something given freely, not taken through control. With clenched fists and burning eyes, Gusera shouted, "Love isn't something you can own with strength." The kids shouted with excitement, eyes wide at the sleek toy car Yoon-soo brought in. "Back then, my family was rich. I always got the best, without asking twice." My classmates crowded around me, begging to see and touch the miniature black Mercedes-Benz. They were amazed, whispering about its price. One boy just clicked his tongue, pretending indifference. I felt invincible. Everyone admired me. Anything I wanted was already waiting in my hands. Before everything changed, I stood in front of our garage, clueless about the coming storm. Dad's business collapsed overnight. Debt swallowed us whole. Everything we owned was suddenly up for sale. I couldn't accept it. My spoiled nature clashed with the new harsh reality we faced. Still, I clung to things. I grabbed a toy car, pretending nothing had changed for me. The others asked about it. I lied, saying I begged Dad and got it anyway. One kid smirked, comparing the toy's price to my old, now unreachable Mercedes model. They mocked me. "Yoon-soo's broke now." Laughter followed. My pride cracked under their cruel words. He demanded the toy. I froze, realizing I couldn't let them walk over me. He held it up, claiming it proudly. I clenched my fists, rage slowly boiling inside. I snapped, rushed forward with nothing but fury to take back what I thought was mine. I slammed the desk, startling everyone. My mind screamed, "If I want it, I'll take it." But I was wrong. Strength defines ownership. Only the strong can truly hold anything. "This is mine," I said, gripping the car. I believe force proved who deserved it. That belief gave me power. It shaped my world, the rule where might made right. Or so I thought. Until someone stronger struck back, shattering everything I'd clung to. I had never lost before. But now, I couldn't land even a single hit. Everything I believed in, strength, control, meant nothing when she appeared and tore through my pride. "Who is this girl?" I gasped. She wasn't normal. Her power felt terrifyingly real. Gusera didn't hesitate. Her strikes were sharp, relentless. I couldn't even react in time. As pain surged through me, I realized this punch didn't just hurt. It shattered my ego. She dashed forward faster than I could react. Her kick hit me like a hammer. I crashed through the air, slammed into the wall. Pain erupted all through my body. Gusera smiled casually, like this was nothing. "You flew far," she said, brushing her hand. "An active delinquent is different, huh?" She mocked. I clenched my fists, boiling with embarrassment. "You!" I growled, staggering upright. Rage burned. "You fucking bitch!" I shouted, ready for revenge. Her punch hit hard, crushing my jaw mid-scream. I dropped, pain exploding in my head. "You should speak nicely," she said, launching me skyward like I weighed nothing at all. I hit the ground. She stood over me. "Strength is what you believe, right? But I'm stronger than you now," she continued. "So you can't take anything from me. You can't have me now," she said. My teeth clenched. Gusera, I gasped. Gusera smirked. "It's easy to feel powerful when you're the strongest one around, huh? You think you're in control," she continued. "But look, everyone else lies broken behind you. You've just been acting like a thug," she said. That's all this really is. With one brutal punch, she knocked me back down, no mercy, no hesitation at all. "Now listen," she ordered. "Get on your knees. Apologize to Mr. Seojin. Right now," she glared. "Apologize now, before I blend you into strawberry juice and drink it." I tried to stand, trembling. Her kick was insane. How could anyone move like that? My eyes widened. For the first time, I doubted myself. Was power not enough? She raised her fist. "This fight, this obsession over ownership, it ends right now." With a loud crash, light burst behind her. Someone or something was coming in fast. "Is this the place?" one asked as footsteps echoed inside the building's dim interior. "Yeah," another answered. Yopo's red bike was parked outside. "He's got to be in here." A group of thugs walked in, grinning. I've waited to see Gusera crawling in defeat. From the ground, I gasped. Yopo? My eyes widened. I knew those guys meant trouble. Gusera turned, sharp and ready. Who the fuck are you? She asked without flinching. Gusera scoffed. Wow, all that tough talk, and now you're just lying there? She spat the words. Fucking coward. Yopo growled, but couldn't muster the strength to rise. One of the gang members panicked. Yopo's actually losing? This isn't how it's supposed to go. Another yelled, Hey, bring that bastard in! Something urgent had shifted in their plan. The door burst open. Seojun! Gusera shouted. He groaned, weak, barely conscious on the ground. You seriously messed with the teacher! Gusera roared, rage erupting through her clenched fist. Yopo rose, bloodied but unfazed. You've got spirit, he said. I'll give you that. You're a tough woman, he admitted, his tone shifting. But toughness doesn't matter to me. There's nothing I can't take, he growled, his obsession burning deep in his eyes. Gusera gritted her teeth. You son of a bitch! Her fist flew straight at him. You still haven't learned? Gusera snapped, grabbing his collar, fury burning through her voice. Yopo smirked. I wouldn't move if I were you, he said, voice cold and sharp. Seojun lay on the floor, bruised and unconscious. Unless you want him hurt, Yopo warned. Seojun! Gusera gasped. Her heart sank. Without thinking, she sprinted toward him at full speed. Yopo blocked her. He's useful, he said. He brings out your weakness, so I brought him. Yopo slammed his fist down, shaking the ground. His rage was completely out of control. I didn't want to use him like this, he muttered, continuing to unleash destruction. Gusera! Seojun yelled as two thugs held him back. He struggled, panic rising fast. Where you going, teacher? One sneered. You're weak. You can't stop this at all. Just sit tight, the other added. Watch your girl get torn apart right now. Yopo grinned, tightening his grip. Now it's time for you to make a choice. Will you become mine, he sneered, or should I bury you here in silence? He leaned closer. Doesn't matter. I already know what you'll say anyway. Gusera spat blood, glared hard, and growled, Fuck! Off! Yopo paused, surprised. Well, this is a first, he muttered, eyes narrowing. Yopo seethed. A woman who won't submit. I've never dealt with this before. With fury, he charged forward, his punch loaded with everything he had left. If I can't have it, he thought, then I'll destroy it completely. Gusera braced herself, knowing this blow could be the one to end everything. Suddenly, Yopo's eyes widened. Something unexpected stopped him mid-strike. The thugs panicked. What the hell? One shouted. When did he escape? Seojun charged in, tackling Yopo from behind with everything he had left. Seojun! Gusera whispered, stunned. She hadn't expected him to stand again, let alone fight. Yopo turned, confused. Seojun growled. You dare hit a girl half your size? His glare sharpened. No, not while I'm still breathing. Seojun stepped forward, fists clenched. You dare touch Gusera? His voice was calm but absolute. Gusera was cornered by bullies in a dark alley, struggling to defend herself alone. Suddenly, a voice thundered. He appeared, enraged, fist clenched tight, eyes burning with fierce resolve. One thug panicked, realizing too late that the tables had completely turned in Gusera's favor. The leader barked in frustration, blaming his subordinate for failing to stop Gusera's unexpected protector. But Yopo stood tall, fury unshaken, silencing them all with one commanding, powerful word, shut up. Seojun crashed down hard, blocking the teacher's blow with no hesitation, eyes locked in defiance. His past wasn't hidden. Teachers like this only fueled the fire inside him long ago. 19 now, fresh from detention, Yopo stared down authority, unafraid to repeat old patterns again. He growled his answer with pride. He had assaulted teachers before, and he wouldn't hesitate now. Facing accusations about smoking, Yopo stood tall, dismissive, refusing to justify himself to judgmental stares. The teacher shouted furiously, unable to believe Yopo's blunt words, crushed cigarette under his foot. Angered further, the teacher demanded proof, yelling, ordering Yopo to reveal the hidden cigarettes immediately. Yopo calmly pulled one out, mocking him with a smirk, completely unfazed by the threat. Swinging the stick, the teacher snapped, hurling insults, not knowing Yopo had faced worse before. Yopo blocked the strike, clenched his fist, and warned him coldly, mind your own business. Yopo declared the cigarettes were his. He wasn't hiding, wasn't afraid, and wasn't apologizing. He insulted the teacher directly, slapping his head, showing zero fear of consequences afterward. He hated teachers because they always tried to control him and take what's his. Every teacher acted superior, demanding respect, correcting words, assuming they were better because of their position. Yopo remembered how teachers judged him for being poor, assuming he'd never amount to anything. Teachers used to say he'd become a criminal, judging him without ever knowing him. Their fake concern, masked as advice, pushed him over the edge one time too many. Yopo couldn't take it anymore. Their arrogance and assumptions made his blood boil with rage. He asked what truly disgusted him, those who looked down on others without any right. Another student watched in silence, absorbing Yopo's words, unsure what to feel in that moment. Yopo firmly said no, he wouldn't ignore what happened, and he wouldn't let it go. He pointed out the obvious. Adults never stepped up in moments that truly mattered most. Calm but firm, he reminded them violence against someone defenseless was cowardly and completely wrong. He demanded an apology to Gu-sera, warning there'd be consequences if it didn't happen. Before he could finish, a blow landed. Gu-sera screamed out for Seojun, panic in her voice. Yopo warned him, don't act tough. He wasn't finished, and things could get worse fast. The brute admitted he brought Seojun only to humiliate Gu-sera. Nothing else ever mattered to him. Yopo grabbed him, furious, threatening to silence him permanently if he dared speak that way again. Tension exploded. Someone struck first. A powerful hit launched bodies across the room in total chaos. Gu-sera rushed in, furious. Seojun was hurt again, and she couldn't take it anymore. Gu-sera clenched her fist, furious she wasn't going to let him leave unpunished this time. Before she could strike, Seojun gently stopped her. Calmly, he asked to handle it himself. He reassured her he had this under control. All he needed was her trust. Gu-sera was stunned. She'd never seen Seojun like this, so calm, yet clearly burning inside. As he stepped forward, his expression sharpened. Gu-sera realized Seojun had never looked this angry. Seojun stepped in again, catching his opponent's attention with a sudden, bold, and unexpected move. The brute mocked him, laughing off the earlier hit, taunting him to try harder. He sneered, wondering why Seojun returned, warning that people like them never learned without pain. But Seojun didn't waver. Calmly, he reminded him hurting others never solved anything or proved strength. Even as he smiled, his voice was clear and strong. I'm student Yunsu. The brute froze, surprised. Something about Yunsu's calm, steady gaze unsettled him deeply inside. He couldn't shake the feeling. That look, was it pity, warning, or something even heavier? Seojun raised his fist not to threaten, but to explain what true strength really meant. He said strength could be respected when used with honor, discipline, and for the right reasons. But misused, strength only bred fear, crushing the weak, never earning real respect, just terror. Seojun warned him if strength was only used selfishly, it was just another dangerous weapon. He urged him not to walk the wrong road. It could ruin everything forever. One wrong choice, he said, could leave him branded a criminal, judged by the world. The words triggered a memory, mocking voices from the past that claimed he'd become nothing. Grinding his teeth, the brute trembled. They never understood. They never cared what he endured. Enraged, he shouted back, calling Seojun's words nonsense. Refusing to be lectured or warned again, he lashed out violently, fists flying, ignoring everyone trying to hold him back or reason. One man stepped forward furious, claiming Yunsu didn't understand suffering or hunger like they truly had. Yopo stopped him, stepping in. He wasn't protecting Yunsu, this was personal now, his fight. Seojun stood firm. Go ahead, he said, say more. Let's see where it leads. The brute challenged him to keep talking, mocking again, daring Yunsu to say more confidently. Seojun agreed without hesitation. Calm and steady, he prepared to repeat his truth again. He'd say it endlessly until the man turned away from violence and chose something better. But the brute remembered others like Seojun, idealists, who made no difference in the end. With a roar, he struck again, boasting that all challengers before ended up beneath his fists. Yopo had always known his power. His fists could break people before they even resisted. He'd watched countless opponents crumble, giving up the moment they realized they couldn't win. But this time was different. Seojun didn't flinch. His eyes held something unfamiliar, calm purpose. For the first time, Yopo felt someone wasn't afraid but wanted something more than submission. Seojun's gaze was steady. He wasn't fighting Yopo, he was guiding him towards something better. The impact shook the ground. Unsu's strike was precise, controlled, yet filled with raw intent. Yopo froze, shocked he hadn't expected that strength from someone who spoke so calmly before. His thoughts raced. Seojun wasn't like the others, something about him felt real and intentional. Yopo recognized it now. This teacher, he was completely different from those who only talked tough. Unlike those past teachers full of pride and judgment, this one carried sincerity in action. Yopo stared at him, it was clear. This guy wasn't bluffing, he meant everything. Gu-sera smiled proudly, watching Seojun's resolve. He's cool, right? She said with quiet confidence. Without hesitation, she claimed him. Seojun wasn't just brave, he was one of them now. Yopo watched Seojun stand firm. He didn't speak much, but his presence said everything. Even as Yopo scoffed, calling him a trainee, something inside him began to shift slightly. Gu-sera struck without warning. Today wasn't about waiting. It was about standing up for him. With full force, her punch landed, shocking everyone. She didn't hesitate, not even for fear. Everyone watching was stunned. They didn't expect her to step in so suddenly and fiercely. Gu-sera recalled the promise she made when she saw Seojun again, she'd protect him. Whatever it took, she'd help him reach his goal, becoming a truly good teacher. Seojun delivered the lesson with his fists clear, direct, and impossible to ignore anymore. Now it was Gusera's turn. Time for Yopo to face real consequences without excuses. Even the bystanders trembled. They realized things had shifted. This wasn't a fight, it was justice. Gusera praised Seojun. "You did enough," she whispered. "Now let me finish this fight." Fire in her eyes, she ordered them down. "I'll take care of the rest." Gusera landed a fierce punch, knocking the thug back before he could even react. With fire in her eyes, Gusera spun and prepared for the next attacker's move. The gang stood frozen in disbelief, watching their strongest fighter fall in just one hit. "Still your turn. Want to test me?" She grinned, voice sharp as broken glass. Gusera charged, grabbing two by the collars and slamming them into the floor, rage unleashed. "Minseo, did you check room 406? "Something strange about that patient," a nurse whispered curiously. Minseo gasped, holding her clipboard. "Kaya! Yes! I saw him this morning during rounds!" "There's a rumor," she said, leaning in, "that room 406 has a really handsome patient." The patient smiled politely, overhearing everything. "Thank you. But I'm just a regular guy." His friend stormed in, furious. "You almost died! Stop pretending you didn't need the hospital!" Gusera shouted, furious. "You're not leaving that bed! You're not fully recovered yet!" A nurse wheeled by, scolding her. "Please lower your voice. This is a hospital." Gusera calmed down instantly. "Sorry," she said, then turned and smiled. "How are you feeling now?" "I'm great. My family's tough," he said proudly. "Just need some spit and I'll heal." A voice echoed from the door. "Found you." A stranger stepped in, badly bandaged, glaring. The red-haired man stared at her. "Gusera," he said with clenched fists. Gusera stood silent, recognizing his voice, tension rising with each passing second. One day ago, the sun shone over an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Baek Junsu arrived, surprised. "What happened here?" she asked, staring at the empty courtyard. Inside, dozens knelt in fear as a figure approached. "The hell is this?" she muttered. Baek Junsu stepped inside, stunned. "Just what the hell happened here?" Her voice barely escaped. Gusera looked up mid-swing. "You're here? Took your sweet time, didn't you? Yopo?" The blonde muttered, eyes wide, recognizing the injured figure lying helpless beneath Gusera. "You fought Yopo?" she asked, shocked. Gusera scoffed. "He started it. I finished it." "Crazy bitch," the blonde muttered. Then, angrier, "He ain't shit? Really?" Fists clenched tight with rage. Yopo wasn't just another bully. He ruled the school through fear, strength, and intimidation. They called him Yopo, short for gorilla, because he crushed everyone with brute force. "You human, or just an intelligent gorilla?" she asked, stepping over his unconscious body. "Shut up." "Take the teacher to the hospital," Gusera said, without looking back. "I'm not done yet," Gusera muttered. Her eyes locked on Yopo's twitching hand. "Ugh, my head." Yopo groaned, raising a shaky hand from the cold ground. "Did I get knocked out?" he mumbled, confused. "What even happened just now?" Gusera grinned, crouched beside him. "You awake?" "Perfect timing, I was just about to begin." Yopo blinked, stunned. "Was I unconscious? I lost? Is that even possible?" Still dazed, he tried to rise. Then her voice hit again. "Oi." He froze. Gusera pointed sharply. "Apologize to Mr. Seojun the moment you wake up tomorrow morning." Yopo growled. What kind of bullshit before another crushing blow cut him off completely? Outside, the quiet warehouse stood peacefully, unaware of the chaos roaring inside. Gusera grabbed his collar again. "Also," she said with a glare that froze his breath, "I'm not asking." Her voice was low, serious. Yopo's anger turned into uneasy silence. Yopo groaned. "I'm baffled. You think threats like that actually work on me?" Gusera reached for a bat. "Don't know," she muttered without looking up. With a firm grip, she stood up. "You might rethink it after this bat." Yopo sneered. "You think that'll scare me?" He growled, blood still dripping. "Not on you," Gusera replied coldly, her glare shifting past him. His eyes widened. Gusera pointed the bat at his motorcycle. "Your red stallion." "Nice grip, huh?" She raised the bat. Target number 4, Yopo's pride, is up. He panicked. Wait! He shouted. "Stop! I'll apologize." Eyes wide, hands trembling, voice cracking. Present-day Yopo stood silently in front of Seojun. "I'm sorry, sir," he muttered. He bowed deeply in the hospital hallway, the memory of fear still fresh in him. "I'm repenting for using violence against you," he said calmly, standing beside Gusera. "Please forgive me, just this once," he added, head slightly lowered in shame. "Damn it!" Yopo clenched his teeth, fury and humiliation burning beneath his bruised skin. "If it weren't for that damn red stallion," he thought, fists tightening again. He bowed low. "Thank you," he muttered. Pride swallowed completely as he faced Seojun. Seojun smiled. "For what it's worth, I forgive you for choosing the wrong path." Yopo stayed quiet. A long pause followed as guilt sank in deeper. "However," Seojun continued firmly, "I can't ignore that you assaulted Gusera." "Why'd you do it?" he asked. Gusera panicked. She had no excuse ready. Yopo muttered, "I liked her. Tried flirting, got rejected. Fists came out instead." "That's not a valid reason to hit someone," Seojun said sternly, crossing his arms. "I'm reflecting," Yopo replied, but his eyes shifted nervously as tension started to rise again. "I brought you to the warehouse to negotiate. Since Gusera likes you," Gusera's voice cut in coldly, "say one more word, and you're dead." Yopo flinched. I was just jealous, because you're close to her." Seojun blinked. "Oh." Yopo turned toward the door. "Then, I'll get going now," he said quietly. "Please rest well. I'll see you later," he added, not looking back. Seojun replied softly, "Well, I'm not sure I'll see you at school anymore." Yopo paused mid-step. "Oh, right." He turned back slowly, face more serious now. "Let me ask," he said. "How can I get something without using force?" Seojun smiled calmly, his tone steady and clear. With an honest heart, he answered. Yopo stared, speechless, the answer simple yet impossible to argue against. He's kind of a damn jerk, Yopo thought, annoyed by how right Seojun always sounded. Outside the hospital, the two sat quietly under the night sky, sharing unspoken thoughts. Yopo looked over and muttered, "Hey," breaking the silence that had started to grow. Gusera approached with her usual fire. "The hospital's a no-smoking zone, idiot." Yopo turned stunned. "Gusera," he muttered, heartbeat rising as she closed in. He smirked. "Are you here because you want to be mine?" "Don't mess with me," Gusera snapped. "You're lucky Seojun Oppa vouched for you yesterday. One more wrong move toward a girl," she warned, "and I'll crush your walnuts." Yopo snapped. "What kind of bullshit is that?" As Gusera stormed closer, furious. "Don't pretend you don't know," she shouted. "You used force on someone vulnerable." "You fucking bastard!" she yelled, her voice echoing beside a painful memory in his mind. "I think you're misunderstanding something," Yopo said, just as a new voice chimed in. "Unsu!" The girl cheered, hugging Yopo. "It's hot! Get off!" he groaned. Gusera was stunned. "You had a girlfriend?" Gusera asked sharply, disbelief growing by the second. "Yeah," Yopo shrugged. "Told you yesterday during the fight, she hated me first. But then," he added smugly, "she fell for my strength and claimed me." Gusera clenched her fists. "You bastard! All that while already dating someone?" Yopo grinned. "Strong men attract many women?" Gusera glared. "Wow, you're the worst." Yopo sped off on his bike. "Didn't get you this time, but I will." Gusera sighed, watching them disappear. "Crazy bastard," she muttered under her breath. Yopo got suspended 5 days. No one dared mess with Gusera after that. Their clash ended with Gusera's clear victory, her influence in Kongsan High now undeniable. The rest of training flew by. "Thanks for everything, Mr. Seojun." Students cheered with gratitude. Seojun smiled brightly, party hat on. Everyone laughed, celebrating his last day at school. Gusera stood silently, arms crossed, smiling gently. Seojun Oppa's last day had finally come.
Gangsan High stood still under the sunlight, the day already feeling different from usual. A sharp voice echoed loud, snapping attention back to reality. It was time for goodbyes. Everyone stood firm, saluting the teacher with energy, emotion mixing with schoolyard formality and pride. With synchronized voices, students offered one last send-off, their roughness softened by shared memories. Overcome with emotion, tears welled up in Nam Byung-woo's eyes, heart aching with pride. He whispered silently to himself his journey was finally over, but growth had just begun. The staff congratulated him, smiles blooming wider than any bouquet he could have received. He recalled his first days, nervous steps in dark halls, doubt loud inside his head. Facing the mirror, he'd questioned everything, unsure if he'd even last a single semester. Students once seemed terrifying, like shadows waiting to pounce at his every uncertain decision. But now, he saw them differently. He saw their fears, their laughter, their potential to grow. Each clap from the crowd now felt like a thank you, loud and full-hearted. Some still cursed behind fake grins, frustration masked in smirks, anger lingering despite the celebration. Quietly, resentment brewed within one pair of eyes, fixated on someone who seemed too perfect. As Lee Seojun stood smiling, bouquet in hand, another chapter waited to begin soon. She paused, thinking carefully, her voice carrying both reflection and quiet affection through the soft breeze. That single word hung in the air between them, gentle, sincere, and undeniably true. He grinned at her, eyes bright like spring light, answering without hesitation or restraint. She smiled knowingly, warmth flickering in her chest like the end of a favorite song. In silence, she watched him, her thoughts drifting with the clouds tinted by sunset. The next day approached slowly, their bags packed, but hearts heavier than either expected. His training ended, and now the next chapter waited, lined with tests and dreams. Gratitude filled his words, simple and honest, echoing across the wooden floors and memories. The old man laughed it off, inviting a farewell drink as casually as ever. She called him gently, hoping to steal a moment before time moved them forward. The rooftop breeze wrapped around them as stars peeked through a midnight velvet sky. He gasped in surprise, eyes drawn to the flicker of a candlelit surprise. Her hands had shaped it herself, layers of effort beneath messy icing and playful toppings. He laughed softly, remembering past attempts and familiar flavors she never stopped using for him. Standing together under the sky, he admitted how much this training truly shaped his future. She beamed, wanting her words to linger as something real, something he'd remember long after. Her smile held no regrets, only pride in watching someone she admired reach the finish line. He smiled back, quietly touched, hands warming around the plate she made just for him. The night breeze carried his quiet thoughts as he whispered what the moment meant. That cityscape glowing, distant calm would become one last snapshot stitched into his memory. She hesitated, then asked what had lingered on her mind through each shared day. He looked away for a moment, caught between stars and memories too deep to name. Her voice called him gently, and his past rushed in like breath after silence. Long ago, someone once told Seojun something he'd never forgotten, something that lit a path. A hand on his head, a soft voice, gave him strength he'd never known. Those words, the belief in him, planted the roots that never stopped growing, no matter what. That memory stayed through every stumble, test, and doubt until it became his reason. His voice softened, explaining not everything begins with knowing, sometimes it begins with being seen. Sarah listened, eyes focused not on what he said, but who he'd become. On that rooftop, with stars above and lights below, they stood still, grateful and changed. Seojun's reply came softly, carrying gratitude and peace, like stars finally settling after dusk. Sarah asked what came next, though she already knew the answer resting in his eyes. He said it with a smile, study, study, and more study for the exams. Sarah teased him back, asking for a call, pretending it wouldn't matter if he forgot. Morning light stretched wide as goodbyes were exchanged like folded memories packed inside his bag. Seojun waved once more, one hand raised, the other brushing away anything too sentimental. Sarah stood silently, realizing she wouldn't see him again for a long, quiet while. Her thoughts lingered, just a little ache in the heart disguised behind a casual shrug. The school returned to normal, sun high and memories fading like chalk off boards. At her desk, Sarah rested her head, unsure why the room suddenly felt smaller. The trainees were gone, and the atmosphere shifted, leaving routines as hollow echoes. The students, sensing change, asked questions hoping perhaps discipline might loosen with the teachers now gone. Sarah kept her face buried, her mind elsewhere, torn between habit and choice. With a shrug, she let it go. If they wanted chaos, fine. As the class erupted in madness, Sarah leaned back, half smiling, half regretting, fully herself again. After all the chaos, things finally quieted down. The school felt too peaceful again. Sarah leaned on her hand, watching classmates goof off, missing the buzz of madness. Jisoo flexed dramatically in the hallway again. Sarah rolled her eyes, barely amused anymore. The teacher sighed as he glanced around, students sleeping, chatting, and pretending class didn't exist. Sarah wondered to herself, with boredom creeping in, was school always this mind-numbingly quiet? The seasons passed quickly, and before anyone noticed, a full year had gone by. Sunlight spilled into the yard again, same sky, same breeze, but something felt different. The gate stood tall. Gangsan High's 24th entrance ceremony was about to begin anew. Bright banners fluttered, welcoming the fresh batch of students. The stage was set again. An old teacher cleared his throat, ready to deliver the usual heartfelt welcome speech. Suddenly, a crash echoed as a student burst in, flipping the mood instantly. The old man flinched, students gasped, as Woojin declared himself leader without hesitation. The boldness caught everyone off guard, but his glare said he was dead serious. Another student stepped up, tensions rising. They stared down, daring one another to strike. The crowd buzzed with excitement. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally getting interesting again. Despite the new energy, no one forgot who really ruled this place last year. Every student glanced back as footsteps echoed, heels clicking with undeniable confidence across the gym. She didn't need to speak. Everyone already knew who stood at the top. No matter how tough they acted, none of them could rival Sarah's presence. She smiled and yawned casually, like the chaos around her was just background noise. The principal tried continuing his speech, praying for peace that clearly wasn't going to last. Amid the scattered energy, a name was called that turned heads without effort. A new teacher stepped forward, footsteps calm, his posture radiating silent authority and strength. He reached the stage, spotlight catching the edges of his crisp black suit jacket. The gym stirred with murmurs, old students whispering stories, new ones caught in the moment. Two staff members exchanged glances, impressed by the attitude flooding through this year's batch. The school's reputation lived on, chaos was tradition, and this year wouldn't be any different. Suddenly, gasps filled the air. Familiar faces turned in shock at who stood ahead. Sarah blinked, surprised for the first time in a while. This wasn't expected at all. He spoke confidently. No longer a trainee, but a full-fledged teacher at Gangsan High. The auditorium buzzed louder than ever. Everyone had questions, but no one dared ask aloud. Sarah stayed seated, arms crossed, still staring at Seojun like he'd broken an unspoken rule. Freshmen whispered excitedly, while seniors looked like they'd seen a ghost rise from detention. Seojun stood calmly, as if he hadn't just lit a fuse beneath Gangsan High again. A few teachers exchanged amused glances. They knew this year would not be quiet either. Sarah leaned back, exhaling sharply, unsure if this was fate or just another messy chapter. She remembered last year's chaos fights, suspensions, drama, and now it all seemed ready to restart. Seojun bowed to close his speech, unaware he'd just flipped the entire school upside down. The sound of footsteps leaving the stage echoed like a drumbeat announcing war's return. A student muttered something, and laughter followed. Gangsan High's spirit was alive and thriving. Sarah stretched, stood up, and muttered under her breath something told her break time was over. She turned her eyes toward the hallway, where trouble always started and rarely ended. This year wouldn't be peaceful, that much was obvious, and honestly, that suited her fine. The loudspeaker crackled to life, announcing homeroom, the calm before another storm had begun. As everyone dispersed, Sarah smirked slightly. Another wild year was officially underway. After the ceremony ended, nervous eyes followed the voice that once ruled the hallways. Sarah stood confident, wild grin flashing, ready to defend Seojun from every threat, old or new. The door creaked open. Kim Woojin stepped in, silence falling over the wrecked classroom. He walked past the scattered bodies, sunlight casting shadows behind him like a dramatic curtain. Kim Woojin, a natural-born fighter, never backed down, especially when it came to school dominance. With a wild grin, he declared his rule over the classroom without hesitation or fear. Fists flying, he tore through chaos, turning every punch into a warning to others. Kicks and blocks molded his instincts. In every hallway, Kim Woojin sharpened his reflexes relentlessly. Eventually, he entered Gangsan High, the nation's shrine for rough, raw, no-rules fighters. There, he aimed to prove his might not through words, but through disciplined fists. He clenched his hand tightly, imagining victories before they'd even begun to take form. Yet here he was, holding a broom in the sunlight, questioning every life choice. Around him, other students swept like robots. Confusion simmered beneath his icy exterior, broom trembling slightly. Frustration built up. He snapped, swinging the broom down like a hammer of justice. Kim Woojin wasn't built to dust flower beds or chase leaves across stone paths. This school was legendary for battles, not for cleaning programs or whatever nonsense this was. Eyes flared around him. A challenge hung in the air, ranks forgotten, fists itching to clash. The hallway buzzed with chatter as Sarah strolled confidently, unaware of what awaited ahead. Her pace slowed when she noticed a familiar figure standing just beyond the locker's edge. She gasped lightly, caught off guard by the unexpected presence of someone she hadn't seen. There he was, holding an English book, smiling like nothing ever changed in their world. Lee Seojun, the new English teacher, returned, bringing back feelings she thought she'd outgrown long ago. Sarah laughed casually, masking nerves, brushing her hair as memories of old afternoons flickered briefly inside. She always admired his calm strength, the way he carried dreams with quiet determination. The school looked brighter that morning. Maybe it was Seojun, or maybe it was hope. She spoke proudly, impressed that he passed his exams when so many others had failed. He smiled, humble as always, but Sarah couldn't help feeling a strange pride within herself. Her thoughts lingered on his words. Good teacher. He said it with such genuine conviction. Sarah tilted her head, wondering why that title meant so much to someone like him. She watched him walk down the hallway, steps light, book tucked tight beneath one arm. The bell echoed. Seojun waved goodbye, his figure slowly disappearing beyond the rows of lockers. Sarah stood still for a moment, heart thumping, realizing Seojun had truly become someone important. Cleaning duty became the new battlefield. Some students adapted, others crumbled under silent humiliation. Seojun enjoyed the calm. Fewer brawls meant fewer bruises and more time for coffee breaks. Sarah noticed the peace too. Her heartbeat sped up for reasons that weren't about fights. She stood by the hallway window, gathering courage she never needed in a street fight. This time, she wasn't throwing punches, just words, and those were somehow even scarier than fists. Fashion Street bustled near Gangsan High, the perfect place to test something scarier than combat. Even the stray cat napped like peace had become the new rule of the streets. Suddenly, a yowl echoed chaos snapped back with one startled paw swipe and airborne panic. Kim Woojin stumbled hard, his day derailed by a cat with better reflexes than him. The alley boys paused, stunned. Once feared students were now puzzled by their peaceful decline. No fights, no smoke, no rebellion. Kim Woojin felt like he'd walked into a sitcom. Frustration built. This wasn't the gritty, raw battlefield he'd trained his knuckles and pride for. Old stories spoke of legendary chaos. Now, everyone whispered about rules, respect, and Sarah's odd smile. Tensions brewed on street corners. Respect faded fast when pride and boredom mixed in silence. One glare from Kim Woojin cracked the air. The peaceful days might be numbered now. Seojun glanced around, surprised by the charm of the street just beyond school grounds. Sarah nodded quickly, cheeks burning. She still couldn't believe he actually came along today. Her heart thumped wildly. For her, this wasn't just a stroll, it felt important. Was this a date? She tried not to hope too hard, but hope lingered anyway. She stumbled over her words, trying to sound casual, but her brain short-circuited instantly. Sarah mentally screamed. She needed to focus. This chance might not ever come again. She'd studied more YouTube restaurant reviews than actual classes this week. All for today. This had to be perfect. Her only goal now was to not mess up. Others watched them pass by, whispering. Her comments stung a little more than she expected. Still, she marched ahead, committed. She would lead this moment no matter what happened. But peace cracked. The sounds of a street fight split through her perfect afternoon plan. Seojun noticed the uniforms. Something about them felt too familiar to be ignored now. Fists flew before she could explain. Kim Woojin dove into chaos like it was home. Crowds gathered, excitement rising. For some, it was entertainment. For Sarah, it was dread. Seojun stepped in, calm but firm. His tone was soft, but the air shifted. Kim Woojin stepped in quickly, trying to diffuse tension before things got out of hand. Faces stiffened, and a few rough guys looked ready to throw punches without second thought. Woojin stayed calm, trying to cool tempers with steady words and a composed presence. One guy stepped forward, aggressive and loud, clearly not in the mood to back down. A girl approached from behind, her expression sharp, cutting through the noise like a blade. The loudest guy froze, confused by her sudden appearance and the intensity in her eyes. She had warned them before, but clearly, those words hadn't reached these thick-headed punks. As tensions rose, Woojin suggested calmly that maybe they could settle this without violence. Her fists tightened, energy flaring, sending an unspoken warning that things could escalate fast. Woojin finally spoke with weight, revealing who he was and shifting the atmosphere entirely. He said he valued peace, not because he was weak, but because he knew strength. The bald man blinked, confused by Woojin's oddly calm attitude and sudden change in tone. Woojin offered to talk things out, but his earlier punch had left confusion behind. Choi Yoon-ho watched the scene, amused the chaos ended just when it got interesting. Woojin's calm strength made an impression, but some still believed Gangsan High had gotten soft. Choi Yoon-ho watched calmly, unimpressed by a school unable to handle one determined teacher alone. On the rooftop, a man sat quietly, stroking a cat. Lost deep in quiet thought, the cat stretched lazily across his lap, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. His grip tightened slightly, the word Gangsan pulsing through his veins like a buried curse. Eyes flared red with tension, the name echoing again and again, loud in his mind. Namjaehee's thoughts burned with fury, his past tied tightly to the name Gangsan High. The cat twitched, sensing something off, while the man's heart raced with old bitter rage. His jaw clenched as memories surged unresolved, unhealed, and twisted his peaceful quiet into growing anger. He whispered their mission to himself, one he'd repeated countless times like a personal vow. Somewhere nearby, chaos returned while he reminded himself why those from Gangsan must be brought down. The cat was hurled with force, a message hidden in that violent and sudden act. Bella Yusia and Kim Woojin looked up, sensing the shift in mood and rising threat. Namjaehee's eyes glowed crimson, his anger now fully awakened, declaring war on Gangsan High. A green-haired man stood by the ledge, holding a cat high above the street. Red light surrounded the man with sharp eyes, staring ahead as chaos quietly began. The cat slipped through his fingers, falling fast toward the crowd below without warning. People looked up in surprise, their peaceful day interrupted by a sudden shadow above. A boy saw it mid-fall, frozen in place as the shape got closer and clearer. Sarah rushed forward with urgency, weaving through people, her eyes fixed above with rising panic. Her mind raced as she recognized what was falling faster than anyone else did. The small cat tumbled helplessly, legs flailing in the air under the bright sky. A man nearby realized too late what it was and braced for the impact. Lightning crackled from above, and everything happened in a blink that felt strangely slow. Sarah lunged with precision, her hand reaching out as her feet skidded across the pavement. The street fell silent for a moment as everyone watched her desperate attempt unfold. She cradled the cat gently, landing hard but safe, letting out a soft breath. The kitten trembled in her arms, confused but unharmed by the close encounter with fate. Cheers rose from the crowd behind her while two figures watched from above, quietly impressed. Watching from above, the green-haired man grinned, impressed by how Sarah handled the fall. Suddenly, a loud voice broke the moment Mr. Kim Bald wasn't happy with rooftop visitors. Furious and swinging a mop, he barked complaints about the noise in the building. The green-haired man said nothing, only staring down before slowly pulling out a metal chain. The rooftop emptied, sunlight warming the orange arcade sign below as the air grew tense. With calm certainty, the pink-haired man issued an order while the city buzzed around him. He was ready to act, something bigger beginning to stir in the shadows of town. The green-haired man wasted no time, chains around his hands tightening as the atmosphere shifted. A chilling gaze followed as he whispered plans of dominance under glowing, unnatural energy. Meanwhile, Sarah stood quietly with the kitten, her eyes steady, unaware of what was coming. The mood shifted quickly from tension to celebration as food was laid across the table. Plates of steaming dishes filled the space while Seojin and Sarah sat side by side. Though the table was full, Sarah couldn't help but feel her mood slowly sink. She had dreamed of sharing dinner alone, now watching the others devour everything loudly. Across the table, the noise continued, and Sarah could only sigh and stab at dumplings. Around the table, Seojin asked how everyone was holding up after the eventful afternoon. The mood lightened as they joked about old nicknames and showed off their minor injuries. Sarah quietly stared, her patience thinning as the loudest guy kept rambling beside her. Seojin smiled, unaware of the growing tension building right next to him at the table. One of them sensed the shift in the air and tried to excuse himself quietly. Sarah's glare blazed while the others kept devouring noodles like it was their last meal. Seojin stayed calm, reminding them to chew before someone actually choked from excitement. He promised to cover more food, which only made the others shout louder in delight. Later, under the night sky, everyone left with full bellies and loud gratitude behind them. Sarah stood alone beneath a street lamp, her thoughts not yet ready to settle down. Seojin walked with Sarah through the quiet street, glancing at her thoughtful expression. She tried to stay calm, remembering their missed book shopping plan from earlier that afternoon. He smiled and offered to make it up with another meal next time. Sarah softened, though her mind wandered back to dinner and how it completely derailed. She remembered how Seojin never raised his voice, even after all their chaos earlier. Seojin shared thoughts under the moonlight, trying to explain what being a teacher meant to him. He believed patience and trust could help even the roughest students eventually find their own path. Sarah quietly listened, wondering if such hope would ever be enough to change anything. Seojin glanced at her and smiled, still determined to make the evening end on warmth. They walked to a nearby cafe, the soft glow ahead promising a sweeter, slower moment together. Sarah laughed lightly, her usual favorite drink still the same after all this time. They strolled toward the cafe while others from dinner lingered behind, chatting under glowing signs. The boys felt full and relaxed, walking through the night with soft chuckles in the air. For some of them, it was their first time feeling genuinely seen by a teacher. A small piece of candy passed hands quietly, sealed with a rare, unspoken feeling of respect. Kim Woojin leaned against his green bike, finally reunited with the others after the long meal. He grinned, still amazed at how different things felt compared to his first impression of school. Choi Yunho sat nearby, stretching from boredom, wondering how long they'd keep standing around. Tension returned as one guy approached Woojin's bike, clearly unaware of whose it actually was. Woojin's mood snapped, protective of his beloved motorcycle, stepping forward before things turned chaotic again. The pink-haired man didn't care about the bike, his eyes were on the group instead. With a smirk, he struck the motorcycle, sending it crashing down with sudden force. Woojin stared in disbelief, rage building fast as his bike skidded across the pavement. Then realization hit, something was wrong, something dangerous. The gas tank wasn't sealed. Liquid spilled across the street, glistening under the lights, setting the stage for something explosive. A lighter flicked through the air, the moment slow and deadly as sparks flew. Flames burst across the scene as Woojin's prized motorcycle ignited in a blazing shock. The group scattered in panic, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from tension to disaster. Everyone looked toward the alley entrance where unexpected figures waited in silence, watching the fire. The pink-haired man turned back calmly, a smirk forming. He was ready to stir things up. Above the cafe, a declaration echoed the hunt was far from over and chaos brewed. Namjae, he observed quietly, eyes sharp as he tracked the pair heading into the cafe. Sarah remained unaware. enjoying her peaceful moment under the warm lights of evening. Below, the streets filled with unsuspecting people, unaware of the storm creeping in. Inside a pool hall, tension thickened. New players waited, ready to bring the night to life. Inside the pool hall, tension rose as students with bats started filling up the room. The air thickened. This wasn't a game. These weren't sticks for sports, they came for war. More gathered near the karaoke rooms, all carrying the same silent determination and sharpened energy. The red-haired girl pushed forward first, no hesitation in her steps or words. Outside, Starcat's coffee remained peaceful, but eyes were already watching from the dark alley below. Word spread fast. Sarah was inside the cafe. That alone fueled the night's direction. Their mission was clear, their goal fixed. They moved without pause toward the entrance. Boots thundered up the stairs, fueled by orders shouted with raw, reckless intent. Inside, the part-timer scrambled in confusion, unable to keep up with the storm that arrived. Nam Jae-hee stood nearby, his quiet presence hidden behind the chaos already unfolding above. Sarah stood on the rooftop, unaware of the ambush brewing just floors beneath her. Suddenly, she turned. A figure appeared. Nam Jae-hee, his presence calm but intense under the moonlight. The tension between them sparked immediately, something off in the way he simply stared. Seojin asked what was wrong, noticing Sarah's sudden pause and shift in expression. Around the corner, shadows gathered. Sarah realized the peaceful evening had turned into something else entirely. Seojin stood up apologetically, explaining something came up. Sarah smiled but felt disappointment sinking in. Sarah nodded politely, hiding frustration. Their quiet evening had been ruined twice now without warning. Alone, her thoughts darkened. Someone had interrupted their time again. This was starting to feel personal. Sarah turned sharply toward the rooftop figure. Her memory flashed back to the falling orange cat. Holding the cat gently, she recalled everything: the rooftop, the chaos, the date she never got. Nam Jae-hee glared with cold eyes, gripping his chain tightly, blue flames rising around him. The moment felt heavy. Without hesitation, she stepped forward. Sarah was done playing nice tonight. Streetlights flickered in the quiet neighborhood as the night settled into a deeper calm. Seojin walked alone, hands in pockets, tracing familiar steps through a street now eerily unfamiliar. He paused, glancing back, thinking about Sarah and the silence that had followed their goodbye. Worried thoughts stirred. Maybe walking her home would have been the smarter, safer choice tonight. Turning a corner, he froze. Two students lay collapsed, one marked with a red 10. Seojun rushed forward, heart racing, the alley bathed in uneasy light and growing dread. He knelt beside the injured student, fear rising as he saw the bloodied symbol again. Reaching for his phone, he considered calling help until a weak voice stopped him cold. Seojin's eyes widened in disbelief. His school wasn't just targeted, it was the center. A new thought chilled him. Someone was hunting their school, and it wasn't random at all. High above the city, laughter echoed as someone else reveled in the chaos below. She stepped into view, unbothered, crackling with energy, her calm broken by interruption. A rooftop confrontation began, threats thrown, identities revealed, and no one willing to back down. The attacker spoke her full name, age, stats like a file being read aloud. She launched forward, a blur of red and fury, fists answering the violence with force. Sarah didn't flinch, her fist flew with fury, eyes blazing under the rooftop moonlight. She didn't wait for answers, only launched a knee strike that landed like thunder. Her words hit harder than her fists. The question hung in the night air. Blood spilled as he stood up, red eyes glowing through the darkness and bruises. Sarah stayed focused, bracing herself, as the mysterious man dashed forward with silent rage. Chains snapped in the dark, and Sarah barely recognized the metallic glint near her. One twist and she was caught, arms pulled tight, breath stolen from her chest. Her attacker's expression didn't waver as he tightened the grip with mechanical calm. Rage flickered through her eyes as she clenched her jaw and glared back defiantly. Choking back fear, she refused to go down without dragging him through hell first. The pain sparked a bitter realization. This fight was more than personal, it was war. The man's words dripped with certainty, promising destruction on anyone tied to their school. Every alley lit with danger. Sarah's breath trembled, but her spirit didn't waver. Across the city, Seojin struggled to support the injured, unaware of who awaited ahead. Meanwhile, another battle erupted. Blonde-haired Min-jae clashed with the crowd without hesitation or holding back. A street fight erupted as Majum landed a brutal strike, shocking everyone nearby. Screams echoed behind the lockers as students scattered, desperate to escape the sudden ambush. Panic spread fast. Minji led the others while chaos exploded behind them in every direction. The attackers chased with rage, swinging bats as they shouted for revenge against the school. In the mess, Kim Woojin stood firm, fists raised, having barely joined for 3 days. Chains dug into her neck, but Sarah refused to show even a hint of fear. The man growled with confidence, but Sarah's eyes burned hotter than his twisted words. She twisted her grip tighter, rage rising with every second she stared at his face. Her strength returned in bursts, defiance blazing despite the pain trying to hold her down. Across the rooftop, silence fell until one final blow cracked against her opponent's clenched jaw. She landed hard but stayed grounded, fury snapping like lightning through her tense shoulders. Sarah stared him down, trying to understand why Gangsen Hai had become a target. She couldn't make sense of it. None of them had done anything to deserve this. Her mind raced while she caught her breath, watching the man fidget with his phone. Without warning, he slapped the device from his ear, glare sharpened with dangerous intent. Sarah caught her breath and raised her fists again, unsure what he'd do next. The rooftop fell quiet. He declared the hunt over, but his eyes said otherwise. She looked up, confused by his words, sensing something worse waiting just beyond this moment. He didn't attack, just left her with a warning and vanished into the night. His last words echoed coldly. Everything tied to their school would be wiped out completely. Sarah's chest tightened. She wasn't just a target, she was part of the declaration. Before she could respond, the man leapt from the rooftop without hesitation. She shouted after him, shocked at his insane escape from 6 stories up. He landed hard but rolled through it, using the chains to slow his fall. Sparks flew off the metal as he slid down, disappearing into the shadows below. Still stunned, Sarah paced the rooftop, trying to make sense of everything. She questioned the logic attacked just for being enrolled in a specific school. Her heart was still racing from the fight, mind looping with questions. She couldn't shake the image of his eyes, calm, cold, and completely determined. The next morning, Gangsen Hai was filled with bruises, bandages, and endless murmurs of disbelief. The halls were full of whispers and bruises. Everyone had a story from last night. A few kids stood around comparing wounds like trading cards, laughter hiding real fear. Questions filled the air, but no one had real answers, just bits and bruises. Seojin kept walking, noticing how unusually empty the classrooms had become. His thoughts circled back to the man with the marked shirt from the alley. Silence lingered as Seojin turned the corner and ran into Sarah near the lockers. Her shoulder was wrapped. She scratched it casually but winced as she bumped past him. Sarah muttered under her breath and shook her head, remembering last night's rooftop chaos. She stormed past the teacher's office, still furious at how that fight ended. Someone inside caught her attention and she paused mid-step, face twisting in curiosity. Inside, teachers debated a new plan to keep students safer after school hours. Seojun proposed street patrols, hoping it would calm things before it got worse. The idea wasn't welcomed warmly. Some didn't want to work outside regular school hours. One teacher scoffed, reminding everyone how wild the students had become lately. Seojun stood his ground, unsure if anything he suggested would truly make a difference. The staff room buzzed with frustration, voices clashing as opinions split between worry and dismissal. Seojin stood his ground, pointing out the bruises they'd all seen on their students. He remembered the man marked with paint, slumped in the alley under the stairs. Seojin's voice cracked slightly as he pleaded for them not to ignore what's happening. The room quieted down as Seojin apologized, realizing he'd raised his voice out of care. Determined, Seojin offered to go alone if no one else would step up. The teachers called him naive, but deep down a few seemed quietly moved. Behind the door, Sarah had been listening, caught off guard by the whole exchange. She was pretending to breathe calmly, but her face said she'd heard everything. Seojun asked if she made it home, his tone lighter than the night before. Sarah nodded quickly, hiding the memory of the rooftop and the man who jumped. Her voice fumbled as she tried to change the topic away from danger. She mentioned overhearing something about patrols and questioned if Seojun really planned to go. Seojun smiled, declaring his plan to guard the alleys for student safety. Sarah stood frozen, speechless at his energy, while the school rooftop buzzed with students above. Tension rose quickly as the group gathered, all searching for answers after yesterday's chaos erupted. Whispers turned to accusations, some questioning pride while others tried hiding the bruises from last night's clash. Baek Junsu tightened his jaw, pride wounded but unwilling to show weakness in front of them. Though claiming victory, frustration flickered. He couldn't ignore how deep the damage actually went beneath bravado. Their patience cracked, voices grew louder as urgency demanded action rather than standing around recounting failures again. The memory of friends laid up in hospital beds made the anger settle deep and sharp. The sterile white room, the tubes and their silence left no room for backing down now. Images of the explosion still haunted him. The moment the bike lit up was unforgettable chaos. Flames had eaten what remained of the green motorcycle, now nothing but twisted metal and regret. Even with orders looming, the group couldn't ignore the insult that came with being struck first. Every excuse fell flat, their fists itched, but fear of consequences left them hesitating in silence. Before anyone could back down, footsteps echoed across the rooftop and cut through their frustration. Everyone froze as she stepped forward, her voice calm but carrying the weight of command. Confusion followed her short order. Even Junsu blinked, unsure what she truly meant by those words. But her eyes were serious. She meant it. Find the ones who dared hit Gangsan High. In the darkened hideout, tension lingered as silence filled the room lit by barrel flames. One by one they gathered, hands clenched, while Sokchan sat deep in thought, barely breathing. Kim Yang's voice rang sharp with purpose, no more hiding. It was time to strike back! Under the night sky, metal stairs echoed as someone stumbled through the shadows of the alley. Flames danced in the barrel, painting walls orange while silence fell over fresh bloodstains. He tried standing, bruised and trembling, anger rising stronger than the pain in his chest. The name of his school meant nothing here, just another reason to be beaten down? He clenched his teeth, glaring upward as footsteps approached, heart pounding louder than his thoughts. A heavy stomp echoed as the tension suddenly shifted beneath flickering firelight. And cold eyes. One turned, surprised to see the newcomer walking in, silent but holding something in hand. Calmly approaching, Jaehee's presence made the air still, unreadable expression hiding something deeper inside. A phone lit up in his hand, screen reflecting the names they'd crossed out. Jaehee gave no answer, just a pause, as blood dripped beneath the injured boy again. The word properly lingered too long, echoing over flames and broken bones on concrete. A hand grabbed the wooden plank, dragging it with the weight of quiet judgment. Without hesitation, the strike landed hard, a scream tearing through the smoke and ash. One of them laughed nervously, realizing too late the job wasn't done well enough. Jaehee's eyes burned red, reminding them again that Gangsan students weren't to be treated like people. Jaehee's hand was stopped gently, but his rage was far past reasoning tonight. The pink-haired boy glanced down, worried the punishment might go too far this time. Jaehee's silence held weight, eyes locked forward, remembering why he started this in the first place. Revenge wasn't something he approached slowly. His path never had room for hesitation or mercy. The wooden plank came down with force, the sound cutting through the fire and smoke. He stood above the broken body, eyes focused, heart colder than the burning air around. Jaehee had one goal: wipe them out completely, until no one from that school remained. This wasn't a fight anymore. It became a hunt that only ended with absolute silence. Sunlight lit up the rooftop, but behind it lay the weight of a coming storm. The rooftop crowd grew silent as one figure stepped forward, carrying a heavy promise to strike. The purple-haired girl faced the group, her eyes sharp with something new, pure determination. Others looked toward her with hope, unsure if this sudden boldness was real or reckless. She stood firm, saying what they all were too afraid to say aloud until now. Her voice rose not in panic but in control, claiming the moment like it belonged to her. Fingers laced together calmly, she reminded them all she was the only one allowed to break them. Cheers erupted loudly as two boys jumped, fists in the air, full of chaotic loyalty. Their excitement made no sense, but they shouted anyway, proud of being pushed around daily. Doubts settled in as silence crept through, unsure if this pride was actually just fear. Baek Junsu stood near the back, bruised and fidgeting under her gaze. She noticed the injuries, piecing together what happened while unwrapping a lollipop in her hand. The hallway was quiet, but her eyes stayed sharp as she laid out the facts. Junsu's jaw tightened. Everyone they fought had dropped out, ghosts outside the system unnoticed. No school records, no uniforms, no trace, just violence disguised as loyalty and chaos. Old pool halls and dingy rooftops became gathering points for these lost, angry faces. What troubled her most wasn't their strength, but the fire burning in their eyes. She studied them again, dark silhouettes holding pipes, eyes empty, yet burning with something unnatural. They weren't just violent. They had no fear, nothing to lose, nothing tying them to reason. A chill passed through her when she remembered that one boy's crazed stare. Rage started bubbling behind the students again, fists raised, hearts set on payback. As they rallied, she stood still, knowing this would be a war, not just revenge. The teacher's office buzzed with whispers as a plan quietly formed behind the classroom doors. Teachers looked on, uncertain whether to laugh or step in as murmurs grew about Seojun. Street patrols weren't official policy, but Seojun stood ready with a bag and determination. Lee Seojun wasn't experienced, but he had the look of someone who couldn't ignore things. Some laughed behind his back, already guessing he'd burn out before the week ended. Even his steps down the hall were met with snide remarks and playful sarcasm. No one really expected change, just another idealist trying to do more than he should. Their mockery didn't stop as they planned drinks, brushing off the day's tension like usual. But Seojun had different plans, and the hallway light fell gently as he walked away. Behind him, someone called his name softly, her eyes unsure but voice steady and curious. She caught up to him quickly, eyes warm, lips curled around a soda can. Sarah tilted her head, asking with a grin while watching him gather his things. Seojun smiled politely, still holding on to hope that effort might make a difference eventually. Sarah handed him the drink, pretending not to notice the weight on his shoulders. Her expression faded slowly because deep down she knew the others had already given up. Laughter echoed in the office, but Sarah's eyes only saw what others ignored. Most of them had already stopped caring, lost in daily routines and easy escapes. Her voice lowered slightly as she glanced at Seojun, concern flickering in her expression. She hesitated, asking what others wouldn't, whether this patrol was really necessary. The hallway stretched ahead, warm with sunlight, but heavy with her silent worry for him. Seojun gently placed a hand on her head, smiling without a trace of hesitation. Her cheeks turned warm, confused by his calm but thankful presence. She didn't expect him to thank her. It felt unfamiliar but sincere. Seojun stood proudly, not as a hero, but as someone holding on to something pure. He remembered his promise to never turn away from any student, no matter the reason. The ones who strayed, the ones who hurt, he believed they all still had hope. Seojun wanted to reach them too, even if no one else tried. His mission wasn't grand, it was simple, clear, and built on quiet persistence. Sarah watched closely, knowing he hadn't changed, always stubborn in the most heartfelt ways. Her smile returned, soft and small because even if the world gave up, he never would. Sarah smiled warmly, politely declining the offer. As the sunset painted the streets golden, she waved goodbye and tucked her phone away, her steps light but determined in the hallway. Ahead, shadows loomed, rough figures lurking in alleys, whispering plans and moving with suspicious excitement. At the corner, a gang gathered, blood boiling, eyes burning with talk of sweet revenge. The street grew tense, their loud curses blending with the evening glow near Gangsan High. Boots stomped the cracked pavement as they talked about smashing Gangsan High students without mercy. Bats swung lazily in their hands, cruel smiles stretched across faces that reeked of trouble. They called themselves the Anti-Gangsan High Union. Proud of their thirst for chaos and pain, their bets grew louder, each man challenging another on who would leave the most broken. Laughter filled the air, but twisted plans brewed darker when they spotted a lonely figure. One thug snarled, shoving an old man aside, annoyed by the slow cart blocking his way. A scuffle broke out, curses flew. The man fell hard onto the sun-warmed alley stones. Their shouting echoed off the walls, blaming the elder for causing useless, irritating traffic jams. The bald thug raised a threatening fist, but a calm voice cut through the tension. From the corner, a blonde figure appeared, stepping forward with a lazy, almost bored expression. Blondie smirked confidently, recognizing the Gangsan High students as they shuffled nervously in the alleyway. A punch dropped one thug immediately, the others freezing as Blondie praised their stupidity with a chuckle. Mocking their lack of brains, Blondie reminded them how badly they got wrecked last time. Rage twisted his face as he declared the start of another brutal hunt on Gangsan High. The boys barely had time to react before Blondie's fists rained down with deadly, precise force. One bald thug charged first, yelling wild threats, trying to mask the fear tightening his chest. Blondie grinned wickedly, mocking the man's screams, easily sidestepping the clumsy swing aimed at his head. The realization hit the thugs hard. They weren't hunters tonight, they were the prey instead. From the side, Sarah darted into the fray, her movements sharp, fierce, and utterly fearless. The clash exploded, bats swung wildly, but Sarah's strikes landed faster, turning the tide instantly. Sarah stayed alert, weaving through attacks, while the thugs shouted in frustration and swung harder. None of them expected a girl to fight back so fiercely, driving them into panic. Sarah knew numbers weren't on her side, but she refused to back down tonight. In a nearby hallway, Gangsan High students assessed their situation, injuries fresh from the last ambush. Frustration grew among them. While some hesitated, others itched to rush back into the chaos outside. Sarah dashed forward, fists flying, deciding she didn't need to gather information to end things. With sharp reflexes, she caught a thug off guard, sending him crashing down to the ground. Another thug stumbled back, clutching his bleeding face, as Sarah charged ahead without hesitation or fear. In the distance, Blondie watched with a smirk, casually helping an old man to his feet. Blondie thought back to how he underestimated Sarah. Now, he couldn't help but respect her strength. Blondie realized that without Sarah stepping in, he would have been beaten badly by the ambushers. He stood still, stunned, as Sarah calmly walked through the sea of unconscious bodies around them. A small, confident smile tugged at Sarah's lips, her eyes cold but burning with resolve. Meanwhile, inside Gangsan High, Blondie and others rallied, anger bubbling over from the previous ambush. Together, they set their sights on a single mission: eliminate every threat without hesitation. Tension filled the air as small groups of Gangsan High students gathered, planning their next move. Jae-young pulled his cap down, determination settling in, ready to clean the streets of trouble. The evening sun cast long shadows down the alley, setting the stage for their mission. Sarah's fierce eyes gleamed as she gripped a thug, marking the true start of battle. Near Gangsan High School, the sun set over the busy streets filled with rushing crowds. Students and shoppers wandered around Gangsan Fashion Cultural Street, laughing and browsing brightly lit shop windows. Just a few blocks away, the lively atmosphere faded into dark, narrow, empty alleyways. In those shadows, dangerous faces gathered, smoking and plotting, hidden from the golden glow outside. Their lawless acts had stained the area's reputation, making it a breeding ground for trouble. Fights broke out constantly, fists flying wild under the shattered lights and broken storefront signs. It became known as the street where demons walked freely without fear of consequences. Locals whispered about the demon realm, warning each other to avoid it after dark. No sane person dared step in, knowing they'd disappear before anyone could find their bones. But today, a patrol officer arrived determined, whistling sharply, stepping boldly into the chaos. Officer Sarah noticed rising reports about students getting ambushed while walking home from cram school. Violence against students had worsened, their bruised bodies often found behind shops in the early morning. Determined to make the street safer, Sarah began her careful patrol through each grim alley. She scanned trash bins and rooftops, determined to catch the lurking dangers before they struck. Just ahead, a thug grabbed a struggling girl, but Sarah tightened her grip and rushed forward. Her whistle swinging wildly as she dashed straight toward the struggling couple. Before she could react, the man suddenly pulled the woman into an unexpected, passionate embrace. Standing awkwardly, Sarah watched the strange scene unfold, trying not to look too surprised. Clearing her throat loudly, Sarah glanced away, pretending to inspect a distant alleyway instead. Shrugging it off, she continued her patrol under the burning sunset, ready for real trouble. Sarah thought about how worried she'd been after hearing students were getting hurt after school. Compared to her expectations, the streets tonight looked strangely quiet and a little too peaceful. Walking calmly, she didn't realize the chaos hidden deeper inside the twisting alleyways nearby. Behind her, trouble stirred as an angry gang leader tightened his fists in the dark. No matter how peaceful it seemed, Sarah knew keeping order here would always cost something. In the back alleys, a brawl erupted between members of the anti-Gangsan High Union. A fierce girl with purple hair, Minji, stood confidently among the fallen thugs. Hojin praised Minji's strength casually, asking what to do with the defeated bodies around them. Minji gave simple orders to hide them out of sight, keeping the streets looking normal. Other teams reported back. One punished smokers, another handled thugs trying to extort from students. A small bump sparked anger between two groups, faces tightening and fists starting to clench. Tensions rose fast as insults flew, bodies pressing forward, ready to break into a full brawl. A towering figure, Jungho, stepped in and commanded them to stop before things exploded worse. Team C quickly reported back, confirming the troublemakers had been captured without major incident tonight. Minji listened carefully, nodding once, and reminded everyone to stay sharp and eliminate the street threats. One thug sprinted down the alley, fear flashing across his face as Team B chased, shouting war cries. Another gang tried charging straight at the Gangsan High patrol squads. Without hesitation, Minji launched a fierce counterattack, sending one thug flying through the air. She tightened her gloves, promising to personally crush any anti-Gangsan High Union that crossed paths. Her strikes came swift and brutal, teaching everyone watching a painful lesson about picking fights here. Sarah walked calmly through the golden streets, his mind set on cleaning up every corner. He vowed silently that this place would become the safest and brightest street in Korea. Night fell, lights flickered on, and Sarah kept moving while others started to take notice. Students admired how much ground Sarah covered without resting. Feeling safer just seeing him around, they smiled, whispering among themselves how impressive Sarah had always been when it truly mattered. Hojun grumbled, expecting a huge fight tonight, but all they kept doing was cleanup duty. He glanced around, wondering if this place had ever really lived up to its scary reputation. Looking at the empty streets, doubts filled his mind about the so-called Demon Realm stories. Their senior reminded him sharply the reason it felt tame now was because of their efforts. 2 years ago, Gangsan High's seniors had made the streets infamous through wild, lawless incidents. Long ago, the seniors had caused chaos, hijackings, bombings, motorcycle chases, and citywide brawls. They gained a terrifying fame across the country, earning respect and fear from rival schools. Hojin grinned at the stories but quickly earned a smack from Minji for slacking off. Minji barked at him, demanding focus while she and the others worked hard restoring order. Down below, Sarah continued quietly patrolling the streets, unaware of the restless eyes watching him. Minji narrowed her eyes, realizing one important figure hadn't shown up during all this street chaos. Hojin scratched his head, confused, until Minji mentioned the man with the scarred face. Somewhere in the dark streets, a figure with sharp, haunting eyes quietly observed everything unfolding. Minji warned the team to avoid direct confrontation if they spotted him anywhere nearby tonight. She stared down at her phone, feeling a chill. This man was extremely dangerous. Minji sprinted down the alley, ready to chase the next target hiding among the shadows. Behind the trash cans, a wounded thug cursed Gangsan Hai bitterly while clutching his bruised ribs. Meanwhile, hidden in a distant building, reinforcements started gathering under the dull glow of neon. News spread fast. One girl from Gangsan Hai was tearing down enemy squads alone. Furious, their leader gripped his phone tight, refusing to believe someone could overpower them so easily. Frustrated voices rose as more reports confirmed one girl was dismantling their forces without mercy. Around burning barrels, tough-looking gangsters laughed off the idea, thinking it was a ridiculous rumor, but one quiet observer among them, scarred and sharp-eyed, didn't dismiss it so easily. Hearing the name Sarah, the scarred man's expression turned cold, finally understanding the real threat. Chain clutched tight, he prepared himself, realizing Sarah was the biggest wall blocking their revenge. Wrapping a heavy chain around his hand, the scarred man calmly ordered the bike started. With quiet determination, he decided to take matters into his own hands from this point. Meanwhile, Sarah continued patrolling brightly lit streets, staying alert despite the peaceful night air. 4 long hours had passed since Sarah began, but he stayed steady, eyes scanning every corner. Checking the time, Sarah realized it was already late, but he still felt no fatigue. Lee Seojun checked his phone, deciding he would finish tonight's patrol soon after one last round. Suddenly, Seojun turned around sharply, sensing a presence creeping behind him in the dim light. A bald, drunken teacher, Oh Young, stumbled over, grinning and slapping Seojun heavily on the back. Seojun blinked in confusion, recognizing the faces of the school's Japanese and English teachers nearby too. Laughing loudly, the older teachers waved bottles around, saying they were just blowing off some steam. Oh Young teased Seojun about his patrol, wondering if he had caught some good teacher disease. Seojun politely explained the streets were still safe, though his face tightened at the rude remarks. Oh Young chuckled, asking why Seojun bothered caring about the hopeless brats running around at night. Behind them, the Japanese and English teachers awkwardly tried to calm Oh Young's drunken rambling. Seojun quietly held his ground, not letting their words shake his sense of duty tonight. Seojun stayed silent until he finally pointed out the real problem standing right before him. Furious, Seojun accused the drunk teachers, realizing they were the ones harming Gangsan Hai's students. A gang of bikers suddenly roared down the street, their engines filling the night with noise. Seojun narrowed his eyes, recognizing the school uniforms vandalized and worn mockingly by the thugs. Rage burned inside Seojun. They weren't just bullies, they were mocking everything Gangsan Hai stood for. Near Gangsan High School, the sunset painted the sky as people crowded Gangsan Fashion Cultural Street. Shoppers strolled along the sidewalk, unaware that just a few blocks away, danger quietly stirred. In a dark alley, shady figures leaned against walls, laughing and smoking like they owned the place. Their crimes were infamous. Stories of theft, violence, and chaos had given them nationwide infamy over time. At night, gangs celebrated with drinks and loud cheers, turning this forgotten place into a lawless playground. Fights broke out almost daily, and the street became feared as a place demons would love. Locals nicknamed it the Demon Realm, a street where normal people wouldn't dare to tread. Even stepping 1 foot inside could mean disappearing without a trace, no one willing to help. But one evening, a determined patrol officer arrived for the first time, standing tall against fear. Lee Seojun adjusted his whistle, his sharp eyes scanning the street, ready to change everything. Lately, students from Gangsan High had been cornered and harassed, some even hurt by thugs. Seojun gritted his teeth, determined to find and remove every threat hiding in the dirty alleys. Carefully, he inspected every dark corner, tossing aside crates and uncovering suspicious figures lurking behind. A sudden noise made him whip around. A thug was dragging a struggling girl violently. Without hesitation, Seojun dashed forward, ready to protect the innocent and clean up this cursed street.